OTB AM.
With Gillette, proud supporters of Movember. Gentlemen, let's move.
7:30, it's Wednesday morning. You're very welcome along to OTB AM. It's Ger Eoin and Owen Sheehan with you this morning. We'd love to hear from you, whatever is exercising you. 087 9 180 180 is the number. You can get in touch, and as ever, you can leave a comment on the YouTube stream. We'll check those. We'll also get your tweets at Off the Ball. Owen, good morning to you. How are you?
Not too bad now. Good morning to you.
We have our first Christmas gift guide with Jess coming up after 9 o'clock this morning. Have you done all the Christmas shopping, Owen?
No. I feel everybody's very prepared this year because
there's nothing else to do.
People have had much else to do, correct. And I think people have just kind of scoured the internet and got everything sorted quite early. But I am not one of those people. Once it is still November, I don't ever feel the urge to get on. And like the real, I guess part of it is also a caution that people have. I don't think we've fully migrated until this year, of course, into the world of online shopping, that people still have the caution of, you know, it says 2-day delivery on that website, but that it definitely means 2-month delivery. Got to be fully cautious about that. So I think that's why people are probably getting ahead of things a little bit. But when I see 2-day delivery, I trust 2-day delivery. I'm a trusting person.
Very good. Are you going to go buck mental when they reduce the levels? It's either level 3 or a level 2, or it might be a level 2 plus, or it might be a level 3 minus.
This is the thing, isn't it? Like 2 and 3 is a very different thing. 3 means you have to stay in your county. 2 means you can leave your county. 2 means you can go for a meal. 3 means you got to have that meal outside. Whether or not I will be cold or indoors and outside of Kerry, that all remains to be seen over the next coming days. So 2.5 will be
come on, I want to know that, like, the pent up, the pints. That must be, you must be looking forward to the massive repetitive beats, 3 in the morning, house parties, away we go. And like, being able to wave to the guard who comes to the door saying, you can't find me. Can't find me, guard. Last week you could, this week you can't.
Yeah, on the spot fines, you can't do it. You needed to turn back time. I mean, repetitive beats are a thing for 2022, I would have thought. Unfortunately, no repetitive beats until then, just slow classical music and one of their households is all that's going to happen this Christmas. The difference
between level 2 and level 3 obviously is supporters at games, fans at matches. So we could yet, according to the Examiner today, have fans at an All-Ireland final. That would be a nice end. Mayo streaming onto the pitch. I mean,
yeah, like, I mean, if there were 2,000 people in Croke Park when Mayo win the All-Ireland, they would overpower the stewarding more than 82,000 people would if Dublin win the All-Ireland. That's how much this is. If you talk about pent-up anything, all the pent-upness in Mayo is going to explode if there's any fans there that day. Like, it'll be also kind of a strange atmosphere. Like, I think the sort of semi-full, and this won't even be close to semi-full stadiums, are just a weird thing that, like, if you're watching football, for example, that in these countries that have had a section of crowd available to them, as we've seen in the Champions League in recent months, it just feels even weirder than having no stadium at all, and it will create a very unique atmosphere if you're in Croke Park and there are, whatever, 2,000 people there. It'll be eerie, and more so. It won't feel like an empty stadium at all, but it'll feel like nobody's here to see you play, despite the fact that over 1 million people are watching you at home.
Yeah, and look, I'm sure it's a little bit odd for everybody involved. So hopefully we might get some fans back at games. You might get people back at racetracks. That's the lead on the Racing Post today. The boss of Gorham Park is very concerned about this. The other thing that's happened overnight is that Laois have officially announced that Eddie Brennan will not be coming back. He has not sought... the semantics of the words are he hasn't sought reapproval for next year, I think. So, he's called time on it after the incident where he lambasted the Laois County Board and the tape got out. It was always going to be very difficult for him to continue working with that board, given what he'd said. However, you do think from the board's perspective, the right thing to do would have been to absolutely make sure that he stays, because then they look like they've been the bigger men. They've had this criticism, they've taken this as a teaching moment, they've learned and they've changed. And in a weird way, County Board's inability to do that speaks a little bit to the conversation you were having yesterday with Anthony Moyes and about the general trust that the central GEA organisation has in county boards to efficiently run counties, run off fixtures, manage finances, all that kind of stuff. Like, there is a sense that around the country, many county boards are peopled with people who are in it for the day out and the dinner and the tickets, and and look, in an amateur organisation, you're going to get a lot of amateurs.
Listen, I don't think that the Eddie Brennan story and the Save the Leinster Football Championship story are overly separate. I think that a lot of what we heard from Eddie Brennan on that day when the tape leaked, I think that speaks to an issue that a lot of counties will have, and in fairness, it's probably unfair to just focus on the Leinster Championship and all that. It's county boards all around the country, I assume, who struggle with this. This would have been the most remarkable sense of modesty, the most remarkable show of modesty had Eddie Brennan been kept on as Laois manager, had the Laois County Board said, you know what, Eddie, we're going to actually look at what you said and we're going to potentially work on a couple of the things that we have, and together we can be better. You are a great manager, you brought us to a great height, especially last year, but we know that we have things to solve and we can mend this relationship and we can build that bridge again. If that had happened, I would have been astonished. It would have been a great thing to do, but it's not something we tend to see in many walks of Irish life, unfortunately. So he was never going to be able to stay on. The thing is now, what's happened is that Eddie Brennan is now walking free and is now available for any county board who wants a manager with a proven track record and who's also quite young and very much on the way up and very much hungry for success. So you're immediately thinking about the tier one counties. You immediately think, could Cork appoint a Kilkenny man and shoehorn Eddie Brennan into their coaching ticket, give him the manager's role, whatever it may be, because it seems that he is the exact type of manager that might take a team out of its slumber and overachieve with them, because that seems like the sort of manager he has been. He has overachieved with Laois. The question will be, though, when will the Kilkenny job come available? Because after what he did last summer, in the summer of 2019, he put himself into clearly the top three positions, himself versus Henry versus DJ. And you just suspect that whenever Brian Cody does step away from Kilkenny, it might be a while yet, Eddie Brennan will be in the mix.
It might be a while. It might be maybe that he wins this year and goes, right, that's it, I've had enough, I'm going to have to see the world. The pandemic has changed my view of life, and now I want to go and, who knows, maybe maybe he's going to be the manager in 20 years' time as well. When you look at how quickly we saw the situation where the Tyrone manager, who's been around almost exactly the same length of time as Brian Cody, got straight back into management. Clearly, these guys have hunger, and the Mickey Hart scenario is different, obviously, given that Cody has relentlessly been successful up to the point where last year, if there hadn't been a sending off from the All-Ireland, would they have beaten Tip? Would we even talk about Tip's inability to go back-to-back? Who knows? Maybe they would have. But certainly I think Eddie Brennan is the hottest name out there available for county boards who want a new manager. Like, of all of the managers who have put a CV together over the last 2 years, what he did with Laois was fairly remarkable when you think about the resources. And now when we learn about what was going on in the background, I hope other county boards are going to be like, oh, look, we'll be different. And they're auditioning him as opposed to, they're auditioning for him as opposed to them auditioning him for their gigs.
Sorry to put across, like, the interesting thing about where hurling has gone in the last couple of years is that there's been far more of an influence on the defensive system and far more of an influence on the manager. The cult of the manager has become a far bigger thing in hurling over the last decade. So you have a lot of high-profile guys who are out of work, so to speak, at the moment, and who might be available. Like, it's not just Eddie Brennan. You're talking about Derek McGrath. You're talking about Micheál Donoghue. You're talking about Donald O'Cusack. These are people who've been spoken about in glowing terms over the last decade or so, about people who brought certain counties to high places, think about the game in a very advanced way. There's only so many great jobs you can get in hurling. It's a very closed shop that there's no guarantee that Eddie Brennan gets straight back in with a really good county and with a really good job, but he's definitely got a great candidacy. It's a really exciting time to be a hurling coach because the game seems to be evolving a little bit.
Yeah.
And I think if you're in a position like Cork, he'd be a great appointment right now.
If anybody wants to get in touch this morning, give us any thoughts on the Eddie Brennan situation or whatever, 0879 180 180. Who will be the next Kilkenny manager? That's one of the questions that we're asking this morning. Who will actually end up getting the gig when Cody goes? Is it automatically Shefflin after what he's done at club level? And, if he wants it, given his standing in the game, it'd be hard to bet against that. But at the same time, DJ's right there in the setup. Also a legend of the game. Here's what's coming up on the show for you this morning. Andy Mitten in just a minute. Sports pages from 8 o'clock. Graham Hunter looking back on an unrecognisable Barcelona team who were absolutely brilliant last night. Early All-Stars, Tommy and Owen, have been sweating and picking out a team from Gaelic football. John Duggan's going to join us at 8:40. Philip Caldwell is going to talk to us about trying to fill the Aviva at 8:50. Our gift guide from 9:05 with Jess Kelly And then more from the Cavan footballers last night and Tommy Walsh as well at 9:30. Now, Phil is with us to bring us up to date on what's going on. Phil.
Good morning, Ger. Yeah, we'll start with the Champions League. Chelsea into the last 16 with 2 games to spare. Manchester United almost there. They need just 1 point from their final 2 group games to advance, and they obviously play PSG and RB Leipzig. But Olivier Giroud scored an injury time header to give Chelsea a 2-1 win away to Rennes. Sevilla also advanced in that group. They beat Krasnodar 2-1. United have 3-point lead at the top of their group thanks to a 4-1 win at home to Istanbul Başakşehir. Bruno Fernandes put them 2-0 up. Then they got a penalty. You thought Bruno Fernandes would take it. He didn't. He let Marcus Rashford take it. Rashford scored. Daniel James was on target in the second half to make it 4-1. Tonight, Liverpool and Manchester City will look to secure their place in the knockout stages. Barcelona and Juventus, 2 of the other teams that are already into the last 16. City are in Greece to take on Olympiacos. That game underway at the earlier time of 5-6. Then Liverpool host Atalanta at Anfield, the team they beat 5-0 3 weeks ago. Mo Salah is available for that game once again. He missed Sunday's win over Leicester after a positive COVID-19 test. That game gets underway at 8 o'clock. The semi-final lineup for the Extra.ie FAI Cup will be completed tonight. Sligo Rovers host Derry City in the last of the quarterfinals. That game at the Showgrounds gets underway at 7:45, and we know the winners will face Shamrock Rovers, the holders, in the last 4. Limerick's Leo Fernandez will take on world champion Ronnie O'Sullivan in the first round of the UK Snooker Championship this evening. This afternoon, Antrim's Jordan Brown faces Martin Gould. And Ger, Portugal has a new star. Never mind Cristiano Ronaldo scoring last night. Portugal's Jose de Sousa won the Grand Slam of darts.
All right.
Yeah, first Portuguese darts player to win a major competition on TV. He beat James Wade 16-12 in last night's final.
All right. Exciting stuff. Is he going to win at Christmas? Who cares? 7:42 this morning, we're turning our attention to Manchester United. Andy Mitten, good morning to you. How are you?
Good morning. All good. Hope you're okay. Looking forward to the talk.
Another midweek conversation with you and another Manchester United victory to look back on. We're obviously in the uptick part of this boom and bust cycle that we've been following so closely for the last 2 years.
Yeah, it's a good way of putting at it. The last time we spoke after a Champions League game, I was in Istanbul and it was a bust part of the cycle. And since then, Manchester United have won 3 consecutive games, convincingly away at inform Everton, less convincingly at home to West Brom in a pretty poor performance, but it was United's first home win of the Premier League season. And then far more convincingly, at least in the first half, against the Turkish champions. 4-1 in any Champions League game is a top result, and United have got 9 points from the first 4 games in a very tough group, a group which, when it was announced, most fans were saying that's us dropping down into the Europa League after Christmas again. I still think it's going to be difficult for United to go through. I do think United will go through, but the 2 remaining games at home to PSG and away to RB Leipzig, United could easily lose both of them. They're both very good teams.
And nobody would be surprised if they won them. It's these games at home to a team like Istanbul Başakşehir, where Manchester United might traditionally struggle. It plays into the West Brom game at the weekend, where perhaps Manchester United haven't been cutthroat enough with their team selection, maybe a lack of bravery with their team selection. Not the case last night. When you've got Rashford, Fernandes, Martial and Cavani in the one team, it's always going to be a good team selection. And Donny van de Beek sitting in the midfield too is something that I presume even before kickoff, Andy, would have made a lot of Manchester United fans very excited.
Yeah, it did. People want to see more of Donny van de Beek. He's a new signing. He's got very good pedigree coming from a successful Ajax team. Some United fans were surprised at how little he's played. The manager has always said that so many games this year he's going to get lots of chances, and I do believe him there. And when he plays like he did against the Turkish side, then more people will be saying that he should be starting more frequently. He was the big winner in last night's game. He played really well. He linked up superbly with Bruno Fernandes in front of him. There was that quick one-touch passing. And in front of Fernandes, Edinson Cavani, who, while he didn't score, I thought he had a very good game. He looked like a proper number 9. His movement was excellent. And, you know, he started the game so impressively with that attacking side. Anthony Martial and Marcus Rashford both had very good first halves. Fernandes is the man. He's made such a huge difference to Manchester United in 2020. He scored 20 goals in his first 35 games, and he's a midfielder. The way that United faded towards the end, and Istanbul scored and added their own pressure, probably shows where Manchester United are in struggling to fully see a game out. They're not a top-notch side yet. But back to your original point, I didn't have a clue what was going to happen last night. This team is so hard to predict. And I emailed Jim White, who's a Manchester United writer, yesterday, and he asked me about the game, and I said, I honestly don't know if it's going to be 3-0 to Man United or 3-0 to the Turkish team. And we're in the upward side of the boom. And so obviously United played well, but started really, really well. And I jokingly tweeted that perhaps United should play the Champions League music before every home Premier League game and just not tell the players it's a domestic game. I mean, Alex Tellers is not going to have a clue what the Everton kit's supposed to look like or the Southampton kit's supposed to look like, is it? And I was obviously joking, but it is alarming how poor United are in the Premier League at home, very good away, and how impressive they've been in the 2 Champions League home games so far against Leipzig and Istanbul.
Is this the team now, Andy? Is this your front 6 at this point? Like, can you afford to move away from this, given, albeit only for a half of football, but given how attractive they look? Because Manchester United have been able to pick up big wins, but it might be over the course of 90 minutes. I'm not sure have we seen them pulverise a team in half a game like they did last night, and I think that's down to the team selection.
Definitely, and a feeling of being vengeful after that awful result in Istanbul a few weeks ago. I totally take your point. Cavani, I think, needs to play more and probably will play more. And I've been pretty consistent in saying how great he is, because the people I speak to know far more than I do. That is their view. I thought Alex Telles had a good game at left back. And this is a big improvement on a year ago, because Luke Shaw, who was one of United's best players before he got injured again, he needed to be covered for. And Telles has come in, he crosses the ball really well. He set up one of the goals. Van der Beek played really well. So I can see it all coming together. And those 3 players did themselves no harm at all. But we've been here before. And this Man United will probably win at Southampton and then probably lose at home. Fortunately, there's 2 away games now in the league. United have been good away, but they've got to become more consistent. That's 3 straight wins now. And we're talking about Van der Beek and the midfield. That has been an area of concern. They've been getting overrun in the middle. And no one's really talking about Paul Pogba being there now. He's fallen out of pretty much everybody's starting 11. Fred gave a couple of sloppy passes in the first half at Old Trafford on Tuesday night, but he's become quite an important player. I'm not saying he's Roy Keane, but he's become quite an important player. And United have just got to continue on this upward curve, like they did in February up to the lockdown and after the lockdown in July. But I think there'll be more bumps along the way. I'm not just going to sit here and say United are going to start winning now. That's it. I just think that the squad is still short when compared to Liverpool, who I think are probably going to run away with the league this year. And I'm obviously delighted for Liverpool Football Club at that prospect, but I'm more concerned about Manchester United. And generally, I think it is moving in the right direction, but then it has to. The team are 2 points ahead in the league at where they were at the same stage last season. So even though United are mid-table, which isn't good enough, that represents some progress. That is clutching at straws there, because last season was a terrible start to the season. But they just need to start getting them wins and start winning at Old Trafford. But 2 wins at Old Trafford in 4 days is definitely encouraging.
The next 2 away games are Southampton and West Ham, and in previous seasons and in previous regimes, certainly in the Ferguson era, you would have chalked that down for 6 points, but actually both those teams are playing really well at the moment, so it's a good opportunity, and they've got Paris Saint-Germain sandwiched in the middle. This next run of three games is going to be very illustrative of exactly where they are, and with that we tick into December, and with December comes all the transfer rumour mill again. Are you expecting there to be a move on the Pogba front now, or will that wait until the summer, do you think?
I'd be surprised if Pogba left in January. I don't think there's going to be a huge amount of activity unless United manage to move on some of the players who aren't featuring. Marcus Rojo, Sergio Romero, Phil Jones, Jesse Lingard. But it doesn't strike me that clubs are flush with money, the biggest clubs, like they were because of the economic situation with COVID. You spoke about Southampton, very good team when they came to Old Trafford after the lockdown and got a draw. Last season, United also drew away at Southampton. If they win this weekend, they'll go level on points, I think, with Southampton. West Ham away at the Olympic Stadium, the London Stadium, whatever it's called. That's been one of the worst grounds for Man United in recent years. That has seen some absolute stinkers. And David Moyes is doing well with West Ham. So they're both tough games. PSG at Old Trafford. PSG have easily got the players capable of coming and winning, like they did last time when they outclassed Man United last year. So that's why I'm saying the Champions League qualification is far from foregone. In January, with transfers, Diallo Traore is coming in from Atalanta. He's 18 years old. He's another right winger. He's a very exciting prospect, according to the people I've spoke to who watch players like him professionally. But he's not even in Atlanta's first team at the moment. And he's been on the bench for Atalanta. Maybe that's because they know that he's leaving, but he's had very, very few minutes. So he's one for the future. I think you'd see United nudged into action if things were as bad as they were last year. That's what pushed the move towards Bruno Fernandes. A desperation, if you like, because United lost 4 games last January. But while we're talking now on the upward curve, then I think that is less likely. But look, if Borussia Dortmund said, do you want Jadon Sancho for 70 million in January, I think United would absolutely move for him. But they're not going to do it.
Yeah, OK, that would make sense. Look, just to round out Owen's point about Van de Beek getting picked last night and Pogba not really in the first 11, are we now getting to the point, sooner rather than later, where actually the logic and the received wisdom will be that you can play Van de Beek and Bruno even against the good teams, even against the good teams away from home? So say, for example, the next time they go to Anfield or they go to Chelsea or one of those games or Spurs, the next time those big games happen, that he's going to be comfortable having those two creative midfielders in his team.
When Van de Beek signed, I spoke to Mike Phelan, the assistant manager, and he said they saw him as like a half forward. He was very attacking and he played very deep last night. I know he moved forward later on in the games. United's big problems aren't really coming against the best teams who come out and attack them. Although at home at Old Trafford, the midfield was totally overrun and tactically outsmarted against Tottenham in the 6-1. Against Palace, probably another freak result. But against Arsenal, who are actually below Manchester United in the table, I think Van de Beek's going to feature. What Ollie needs to do is find his favoured formation. And that at the moment would include Van de Beek and not Paul Pogba. But a fit Paul Pogba in form is a huge asset to have. We've just not seen it for so long that fans have lost patience. And as I said, they wouldn't be too bothered if he moved on. So it reminds me a little bit of, in the treble season, you had these 4 strikers, Cole Solskjaer, Teddy Sheringham and Dwight York. And it took a couple of months, and it was actually at Southampton away where Cole and York really clicked. And Fergie thought, they're my two favoured starters. And I'll use all the others, but they're my 2 favourite starters. And the midfield situation has not been solved so far. And you can argue a case for and against every single player there. A year ago, Matic wouldn't have featured and Fred wouldn't have. And they had really good starts. After the blip in January, they were both playing really well and were key players. Pogba is out of favour now. Van der Beek's back into favour. Jesse Lingard's not featuring. Fernandes has been the man. He's the best player. He's the most creative force. And he would have had a hat-trick last night if he wouldn't have given the penalty to Marcus Rashford, who scored a great penalty.
Yeah, why did he do that? Why did he give away his hat-trick?
I think there's a school of thought within the club that the best penalty taker is Marcus Rashford. Well, I don't think that. I know that. And I think it was pretty selfless of him to do that. And his penalties have not been overly convincing. And Man United get a penalty every week, as everybody who doesn't support Man United always complains about. So, yeah, I think that was a good one for team spirit. Look, Bruno didn't need more goals to boost his confidence. And he's had his fair share of penalties, and he made that point afterwards. If he can carry some of the players up to being the best with him, and they've all got room for improvement, then I quite liked it when he passed that penalty over.
Didn't Rashford just pass a penalty over a couple of weeks back as well when he was on a hat-trick, and then ultimately he gets his hat-trick off the bench? So maybe it's like good karma is now...
Yeah, it's good. It's a good karma. This isn't Cavani and Ibrahimovic at PSG, where they're all sort of growling at each other.
Yeah.
And good karma can help for a good team spirit. And Man United need all that at the moment. Look at the league table. But if they get that, it's another small margin and another step towards improvement. And we're going these 4 or 5 game winning runs, and then when we speak in 2 weeks after another defeat, the world will come crashing back down again.
It might even be next week after the PSG game. Is it 4-2-3-1? Is that the formation, and that the identity of that two is Fred +1? And ideally, for most Man United fans, I'd love to see Van de Beek there and given a run. Is that essentially what we're saying at the moment?
4-2-3-1 is definitely Solskjaer's preferred formation, and yet some of his best performances have been with a 3 or a 5 at the back. I think he will mostly go with 4-2-3-1, but he will alter, especially against some of the best teams, because United are really effective on the counter-attack, and they've got that incredible pace up front, and part of the problem has been getting the ball to those players up front. Martial didn't help himself by being out having been sent off, so he's another one who he needs goals. He started the game well last night and faded a bit like his team in the second half. If you're asking at the moment, then it's Fred and Van de Beek. But as I said, it can change pretty quickly. You can't just write Matic off when he's had so many good games this year. But at the moment, he wouldn't be the one that people are starting.
Andy, good stuff. Thanks a million for joining us.
Thank you.
Cheers. It's Andy Mitten from, of course, United We Stand, and 442, and you can also read stuff on The Athletic and ESPN as well. So 7:58 this morning here on OTB AM. We're live in association with Gillette. Good morning. Start with Gillette, giving you the confidence to tackle the day ahead. You can get in touch. 087 9 180 180 is the number, and you can also get us on Twitter @OffTheBall, or you can use the hashtag OTBAM or leave a comment on the YouTube stream. We'll get to your comments in just a couple of minutes' time. Graham Hunter is talking football next. We're also going to bring you our early Gaelic football all-stars. You can check out Tommy Rooney's feed for what he's thinking. Owen has recused himself from this on the basis of the abuse that he's getting for the power rankings. So you're doing your job out there. Well done. Congratulations, everybody. Bullying the poor young man to the point where he's thinking about actually moving Meath further back and moving Tipperary further up. We'll deal with that some other time. Ads, back next.
OTB AM on OTB Sports Radio, Ireland's first and only sports radio station.
The Sunday paper review on OTB.
You know, if you wanted to, have one article that basically merited buying the paper alone today, or any paper, this piece with Andy Townsend is absolutely beautiful, because it's a 2-piece spread in the Sindo, and it works in so many layers that you don't expect. It's just a beautiful, beautiful piece of journalism that goes way beyond sport.
Digesting the best stories on the back pages every Sunday afternoon on OTB Sports Radio. Tune in 24/7 on the OTB Sports app.
The all-new OTB Sports app. It's all videos, sports news, live scores, interviews, podcasts, all waiting for you. Search OTB Sports on your app store and download now.
OTB AM.
With Gillette, proud supporters of Movember. Gentlemen, let's move.
OTB AM.
Right. The DJ Carey mindset. Tommy Walsh talking about the winning of big games. Great stuff from Tommy Walsh last night. We'll bring it for you a little bit later on here on OTB AM. Dubs funding debate. The money tap should be turned off. That was part of the conversation yesterday. We've started that conversation. It's not over. Chelsea through to Champions League last 16 after a late Giroud winner. A bit of drama at the end of last night's Champions League games, but it means that there's going to be a couple of weeks of nothing to look forward to. O'Sullivan believes in miracles. Ireland gearing up for Germany. We'll hear from Vera Pauw on Friday evening show. In the meantime, here's the rest of the sports pages. A fair bit of unanimity around the celebration of Manchester United's winner last night. Bruno's rocket fires up United. Mayo boss Horan hits out at outrageous squad limits. Cavan and Dublin should toss a coin for semi-final home advantage, says Shawnee Johnson. The Examiner, they're talking about how a regional National Football League might work. So they're talking about a couple of different groupings. The Division 1 groupings, for example, Armagh, Donegal, Monaghan and Tyrone in one group. And the second group will be Dublin, Galway, Kerry and Roscommon. In Division 2, it will be Down, Meath, Mayo and Westmeath, and then Clare, Cork, Laois and Kildare. And you play 3 games. And then the bottom of each one will be relegated next year. And then they're also saying All-Ireland crowd's still a possibility. And Tipperary are not wearing the green and white. I guess it would be hard to put a sponsor's logo on that jersey. And maybe that was part of the thinking. They can go back to having their Teneo jerseys as well. Racing Post, now is the time we need to start, not in 6 months. It's soul destroying. This is the manager of Gorham Park saying that they need to get crowds in. Bruno on the double is the back of the Herald. The back of the Guardian there is Bruno celebrating. Return of fans leave clubs racing to find matchday staff. So 4,000 fans at Premier League games, and then Bruno celebrating on the back of the Times. Strict code of conduct for fans return. And PFA dementia plan faces snub. So the PFA just can't do right for doing wrong at the moment because, well, I just wonder if their motivation is coming from the right place here. Donegal and Cork have only themselves to blame, says Darragh O'Shea. Is he laughing? Is the sound of laughter, has it died down from Kerry about what happened to Cork yet?
No.
Will it ever die down?
No.
Was it the greatest moment of your life?
Yes.
It kind of
without question.
It absolutely made 2020 this phenomenal. You guys got a sucker punch, and then Cork lured it into the point where they're thinking of here, look, anything can happen in an All-Ireland final. The very words spoken about Cork, essentially. Anything can happen. When we get into that All-Ireland final, anything could happen, and you're still laughing at it.
There's no greater sense that you are a successful sports team than not actually luxuriating in the success of your sports team, but actually luxuriating in the lack of success of another sports team. That is a sure sign that we're all going in the right direction. Yeah,
I think the whole point of being interested in sport is being able to laugh at your neighbours, right? The Irish Sun, something old, something brew. That's Bruno Fernandes. Fernandes does trick for Ole. And Frank Hale's ageing Ollie. That is Olivier Giroud. And Mo's nod on rule of /65. So there's a loophole in the Premier League's COVID-19 rules, which sees them return just 5 days after a positive test. I'm sure it's fine. The Daily Mail on the back page. Horan's fury. Mayo boss says exclusion rule is outrageous. And Easterby defends hookers after line-out flop. That's the story. And that one there. And the Mirror. Prem's Oh Holy Fright. Bosses fear a bleak winter. Top bosses in a bit of row over horrific Christmas fixture list. This to do with the TV festive schedule. That they're already starting to complain about that. It's a story as old as Christmas. Football managers complaining about fixtures. Bruno stars. Fernandes fires United to glory. And Galligan, we'd play dubs on a back street if we had to. Hopefully that won't come to that. I mean, 2020 has been weird enough so far. Like, would it be the back streets around Croker where the Lockhards are telling the lads where to park? Is that what would happen? Or would it be, one of the drumlins in Cavan? In which case it would certainly feel like 50-50.
Why not bring the game to Breffni? Why is nobody mentioning that? Why is it Navan or nowhere? Why not Cavan or nowhere?
Doesn't have the same ring to it. That's why it's not alliterative. You need to come up with something.
Good point. Well, there is obviously that, I guess, yeah. But I don't know why that they've just immediately settled for the middle ground. You have to go all the way for the ideal outcome and then settle for Navan. Navan is your end negotiation point. You start your negotiation by saying Breffni Park or we're not going anywhere. Because if you start your negotiation at Navan, we all know where it's going to end up. Croke Park.
Yeah. Has nobody thought really about Hawkeye? Like, it needs to be somewhere where there is Hawkeye, so that kind of really only leaves Thurles or Páirc Uí Chaoimh. And I don't know if they're both, I don't know if it's actually working in both Thurles and or Páirc Uí Chaoimh. So,
no, I don't think so. Definitely not in Thurles.
Could we run the possibility where a match is decided by a dodgy decision and there's Hawkeye lying idle in Croker? I don't think probably in this instance we could.
Well, if a decision via Hawkeye decides Cavan versus Dublin, then the decision to take the game out of Croke Park will have been well and truly vindicated.
5 minutes past 8 this morning. It's time for us to turn our attention back to football, and I'm delighted to say Graham Hunter is with us. Graham, good morning to you. How are you?
Buenos dias. Robust, noisy, confident. How many more adjectives do you want?
Is that you or the city you're in?
No, me. To me, always me. The city I'm in is gloriously warm. The restrictions, which have been a curfew, meaning everybody's got to be indoors by 10. Boy, the cops have been loving it. This is what it's like in the good old days. The cops have us all heard up in our scratches at 10 o'clock, and you're not allowed out until 6 a.m, aka my glory hours. It's a disaster. But the restrictions were lifted on Monday. Golf courses were open, so I was out yesterday. So, listen, everything's rosy. Yeah, everything's rosy.
And Rosie with the team selection last night as well. So we were flashing around the Barcelona team going, whoa, look at this. This is a completely different team from one that anybody, if you'd sat down at the start of the year and predicted, okay, I'm going to give you the fixture at the end of November in the Champions League, give me that starting 11, 1,000,000 to 1 that somebody would have come up with the team he picked last night. And I only saw the score, so I didn't see too much of the game. I saw some of the goals. Were they as good as the scoreline said?
You want to quote Fergie in this instance and give it his football bloody hell thing, Ger, because I was at the first leg, the first game, and Dino Kiev against a very strong Barcelona side in that game, a Barcelona side which started as if they were going to win 6-0, scored a couple of really quick goals. I think had one ruled out. They could easily have been 3-4-0 up within 10 minutes. Were then battered. I mean, absolutely battered. Dynamo Kiev had 22 efforts at goal, 13 on target at Camp Nou, scored one. Marc-André ter Stegen that night was man of the match by a distance, was given the UEFA Man of the Match award, and produced 4 or 5 of the best saves that he's ever had at Camp Nou. And then in the Olympic Stadium in Kiev, not only is Ansu out and Piqué out and Busquets out through injury and more, and he decides wisely, I mean, really whatever the result was, he decides to leave Messi behind. That was just glaringly obvious. It's been glaringly obvious for many managers who haven't had the cojones to do it, that you can't squeeze every last drop of genius out of Messi every single minute of every single game. It's not right. I don't know, it's 4 or 5 years, or certainly 4 years, I think 5 years, since Zidane persuaded Cristiano Ronaldo, who's a physical beast, that he couldn't play every game, and yet nobody had the smarts to sit Messi down and say, listen, every now and again, wee man. Anyway, he's out, Frankie de Jong's left behind. But then the real surprise is that when they take a very raw, very green squad to Kiev, and they leave Griezmann out for what Koeman later says was a slight physical problem, but Griezmann comes on. They leave Alba out, and they stroll it, to be honest. So the football bloody hell thing was, where were Kiev? What happened? Kiev, in the first game, were said to be missing, they were missing the players, but the players, the 8 that were missing through COVID problems, were said to be absolute guaranteed first-team starters, just vital to Lucescu's team. The majority of them were back. I interviewed Lucescu and the Portuguese player Jess after the first game, and they were like, I mean, literally, they were like, oh, let's get these boys back to Kiev, because I tell you this. And they were awful. Kiev were pallid. On top of which, as the pattern of play developed, Barcelona were adequate and cagey first half, and second half, even though they were a debutant Mingueza at 21 at centre back, playing next to Longley, even though Dest, I think that was Dest's first start in the Champions League for Barca. He'd racked up 5-6 games for Ajax. Look, we could go through it. Junior Firpo has been playing really poor football. He starts at left back. Alenya was told to find a new club by Koeman, and he starts at pivote next to Pjanic. And irrespective of that, and Brathwaite being up front, who's overdue time, Dane, but people keep sneering at because he played for Middlesbrough and he played for Leganés. It's ridiculous. They don't judge the horse flesh. They go, oh, well, look at the track record. Anyway, the long and short is they looked around, they sniffed the air and went, we can counter this. And they did. And it could have been more. And there are few away Barca results in my time living in Spain that have surprised me as much as this did. Dinamo Kiev had a huge part in that. I just don't understand how they could be under strength at Camp Nou, pummel Barca, deserve to win, and then get pumped at home by a Barca side, which, as you said, you'd have laid millions to one that they would turn out a Champions League side with those 11 names if you asked somebody 6-7 months ago. Agree with you.
Just to pick up on what you said about Messi there, Graham, there might be, I certainly am under the impression that there is less genius available to Lionel Messi, that he is declining at the moment. But from what you're saying there, it seems that you just have to pick and choose your moments when to extract the genius out of Lionel Messi. He just can't do it as much as he used to be able to do it, rather than not being able to do it at that a high level anymore.
Joe, I don't know. I mean, listen, I'm not going to jump on the words too much. You said less genius available. I would personally phrase it differently. I think that it's still well within his compass to play consistently like the best footballer in the world if you take away several elements that are under his skin right now. So first of all, even when he was 27, 28, you could find a not tepid, but a patchy Messi performance when he came back from two really big midwinter FIFA qualification fixtures against tough teams. Now that he's 33 and a half, that's equally the case, and albeit that he flared briefly in the first part of the defeat to Atleti at the weekend, gradually he faded from the game. But the key factors are he's still massively ticked off at what's around him, Joey. He stayed mostly out of the moving pieces not falling into place for him in the summer, rather than of his own volition. On a daily basis, I have absolutely no doubt whatsoever, because not just what the upfront manager briefings or PR will tell you, the players say, the staff say that Messi's on it in training, that the environment is better, that he's enjoying himself, that he's coping much better without having his best pal, breach to his Sundance in Luis Suarez having gone. But the quality of the displays, how robust Barcelona are, the quality of the ball that they give him, the movement around him, all these things remain a really glaring problem. His relationship with Griezmann is absolutely fine. There's a lot of horse spoken about that by people who don't know. But he looks around him and he sees a side which is shorn of world-class talent, a side which is peppered with really good young footballers who are finding their way, but haven't played a great deal of football with them and can't be expected at 18, 19, 20 to be knocking teams over week in, week out. That's the main ailment at Football Club Barcelona. He's in a moment where he's part of an effort by the club to strip. People make far too little of this, whether you talk about analysing Messi, Joe, or the squad. They're being asked to, and they've been asked for months now, the negotiations are going on, they've been asked to lose 190 million off the wage bill. So all of the players have been told, while we are running you into the ground and playing you all every single possible opportunity, and while you're all knackered and most of you are staving off injury or coming back from injury or scared of COVID or worried about your families in an environment where, because actually, shock horror, everybody listens off the ball AM, footballers are human beings, they're allowed to be worried about the spread of this virus, about it. They're not just machines that we take out of the cupboard every weekend. the words of Klopp and the words of Koeman prior to Kiev echo really loudly in this dressing room, as I think every dressing room. We as an industry, the footballers have been treated like as base commodities as I've ever seen in my career, and then they've been told, and we need some of that money back that we agreed to give you. Some of it, how much? Millions, please. The atmosphere right now for Leo Messi is one whereby the debate about what kind of Messi are we going to see age 33, 34, 35, 36, maybe even 37, that debate has been nudged out. The vision is blurred because of the surrounding circumstances. This is not a question of is he still a football genius? Can he still be the best in the world at 33, 34? Could he win the Copa America next summer? Should he be thinking about winning a Champions League at Barcelona because maybe it's time to do it? All these things are slightly out of focus because right now the climate at Football Club Barcelona is not good. There's no board, there's no president. They know Koeman is a one-term manager. It's a very, very, very difficult environment. And what we're seeing in Messi is a guy who's a little bit ticked off that he didn't get to go. I think now looking around him that there's a very decent chance he won't win a trophy in what might well be his last season at Football Club Barcelona. A guy who's been asked for some of his money back, and a guy who, this really, really makes me angry. Not on behalf of Messi or I'm not a Barcelona supporter. I've said that so often during my career. But why are we in a living, you, two, and me, and why have you got people tuning in? Because sportsmen and women produce uplifting, confusing, unpredictable, genius-style stuff that's as big as any drama TV put on, any opera throughout history, and sport is probably the number one cultural thing that's ever been invented, and we're running them into the ground. And Leo Messi travels 15 hours home from Argentina to be greeted by Hacienda, means sort of the tax and customs people at 4 a.m, mounting an hour-long spot examination because he's arrived in a private plane, which is the way to get back quickly from an international match, so you might be ready for the Atleti game. He's delayed there, and then by 5 o'clock in the morning, whatever, there's a mob of TV reporters going, "Oh, Leo, did you hear what your ex-agent, what Griezmann's ex-agent, Griezmann's uncle said about you?" If it had been me, I promise you, I'd have been coming out with haymakers. I'd have been taking out microphones and reporting. You're going, wait until, it's daytime and I haven't been traveling 15 hours if you've got questions to ask. And, it's ridiculous that the disrespect with which we treat. The questions can be asked, they need to be answered. I wish there was more communication between elite stars and the working soldiers of the media. But treating a guy like that who's on the brink of saying, "Listen, the game's a bogey, what am I doing here?" is just, we eat ourselves up, is what we do.
Well,
we behave in a ridiculous manner, and we get Leo Messi looking ticked off on the pitch, and we wonder why.
So that's why, if you're Messi, you're thinking about, well, actually, faraway hills and greener grass and all that kind of stuff, and the grass is pretty green in Manchester.
That's why if you're Messi, you should hire me as his security, because then I would have waded into them. I tell you something, bodies everywhere. Yeah, the greener pastures of Manchester, Ger, I love. That's why I come on the show. It's a good expression. You don't hear that often.
It's a follow-on. Like it's a natural. You kind of the discontent is fomented so much, where he's like, yeah, okay, fine, I've had enough. You've broken me. You see it in all walks of life. People get broken.
I think that's how he feels right now, Ger. That's how he feels right now. I think June might be a different thing, but that's how he feels right now.
So that's what my question was actually not about June. My question was actually, is there a possibility now in January that something happens in a way that we didn't think was possible? Because actually, you know what, if you're Barca and there's 25, 35, 40 million plus you take his wages off, all of a sudden... I
think Barcelona would such a complicated question. They're run by an administrator effectively at the moment. I'm not sure that it's within his purview that he's statutorily allowed to do that. The new elections might just beat the end of the transfer market. I don't think the new president will want to be the one saddled with selling Leo Messi. I think, now I'm estimating, I don't have a hotline into his HQ about what he's going to do in January. But I have spoken to somebody who runs a part of Team Messi, because it's a big organisation. And I spoke to 2 days ago to him at length, and he led me to believe that the possibility of a Manchester City move at the end of the season is still very much there. The people that own City very much still want to do the deal. Moving in mid-season to any rainy, cold, northern climate at a time when Messi made a big fuss last summer about his kids, upon whom he dotes. Sports people pack their bags and take their families all around the world all the time. He won't be a perpetual exception, but he dotes on his kids. His kids and his wife were all in tears about the prospect of leaving last summer, hauling them up or leaving them behind in midwinter to go to a club in mid-season, a club where, unless he was moving to America or Miami in mid-season, won't speak his language. He doesn't have other languages. It's not going to happen.
Okay.
He's not going to move.
Okay, that makes sense. We're completely out of time. I've gone way over, but I do just want to have one quick question. Real Madrid could be essentially out of the Champions League tonight if they lose against Inter Milan. I mean, it's a remarkable, or on the precipice. It's a remarkable situation.
It is, and they've lost 7 of 8 Champions League matches in a row when Ramos hasn't been there. He's not there tonight. Yes, it's tricky. Inter showed in the first game that they could have the beating of Real Madrid. I'd like to believe for the value of the competition. I'd like to believe for the way in which the young players are coming through at Real Madrid that they don't go out, because it would be an enormous blow to credibility. Most of the people who are in Catalonia disagree with me. I trust them not to lose, but is it a possibility that Inter are good enough to run them off their feet and Lukaku to out-jump a defence that doesn't have Ramos in it? Yeah, yes, it's a possibility. It's not a daft idea. I think they live to fight again, Ger, I think.
Graham, great stuff. Thanks a million for joining us this morning. Cheers.
See you, lads.
Graham Hunter giving us some thoughts there. 0879 180 180 is the text number. You can WhatsApp us on that. That's the easiest way to get through to us this morning if you have anything you want to get off your chest. And that is the crack with that. We're going to have Tommy along for our All-Star debate in just a moment. In the meantime, obviously, we're at the semi-final stage now of the 2020 GA Football All-Ireland Senior Championships. To celebrate Super Value, as part of their Support Where You're From campaign, have given us some great prizes to give away. Dig out your favourite ticket stub, a match programme, a jersey, a photo with your hero, any GA-related items that you've got to tell the country about. Make a short video, 20-30 seconds, doesn't really matter, explaining why it's significant. Get them into us on our social channels. That's 0879 180 180, or you can DM us on Twitter or whatever. We'll choose a winner every Friday during the championship. Each weekly winner lands a €200 voucher for a Super Value near you, and also the chance to star in Super Value's Superfan series. It's a fly-on-the-wall peek inside the homes of dedicated supporters around the country. Super Value, proud sponsors of the GAA Football All-Ireland Senior Championships. Check out Facebook, check out youtube.com/Super Value Ireland for more details. Now, what are we at here? Tommy, is it time for Tommy? 23 minutes past 8 this morning. Good morning to you.
Morning, guys. Hey, guys. How are we?
My Twitter feed has been clogged up incessantly since at some point last night you decided to go public about this, Tommy. The lobbying has not. I can only imagine how much lobbying goes on for the real All-Star selectors.
I needed a bit of help, Ger. I'll be honest. I struggled to sleep last night over my half-forward line. Yeah, Owen, look, I can understand a little bit. I can kind of see the abuse that Owen gets, the warranted abuse that he gets over the power rankings. And sometimes I question why he puts himself through it. Sometimes I think he enjoys it.
I listened on the way in this morning. I listened to the power rankings. I was obviously off yesterday, and I just want to say fair play to Shane Hannon for sticking up for his Longford brethren. I really thought, this is left field. This is a commitment to the so-called weaker counties that literally nobody else on the planet has ever had, certainly on this show. And I just want to say, hats off, Shane. You did great work.
I haven't been I've been more blindsided by a person since the reporter in Nashville when Shane came up with Longford yesterday, to be quite honest with you. The thing with this All-Star section is going to be very interesting. We all know that, you know, everybody tends to hate Kerry football fans. You know, we all hate Dublin fans. Everybody knows what Mayo fans bring to proceedings. What is interesting about this and this All-Star selection is we finally get to find out what Cavan fans and what Tipperary football fans are made of. Are they going to be as insufferable as Kerry football fans? Time will tell. Now is your chance. Come into the limelight. Give Tommy Rooney all the abuse in the world.
Give us your team, Tommy.
I'm starting to regret some of my decisions already. Okay, well, I go with my goalkeeper. And there's no debating this. Doesn't matter what happens in the All-Ireland semi-final. Raymond Galligan is the goalkeeper from Cavan. It's a really easy decision. If you can remember the Monaghan game, he made 4 or 5 brilliant saves in that game. Monaghan should have been way ahead at half-time. Made some saves in the down game, and then obviously kicked the winner against Monaghan. Some great saves against Donegal that were probably overlooked. Probably 8 or 9 big saves over the championship so far. He's captain his county. So Raymond Galligan's in goal. I can't see Comerford from Tip or Cluxton or Clark overtaking him there. I think that's a banker. My fullback is also a banker, and it's Padraig Faulkner from Cavan. He was on off the ball last night. This man is the best fullback in the country, lads. I'm not sure if you've caught that yet, but he really is.
Well, you keep telling us, so...
No, he is. He's the best fullback in the county, in the country. And he's number 3 at fullback. I struggle with my cornerbacks, I'll be honest with you. And there may be a bit of debate to be had there. But Oisin Mullen from Mayo was in there. I think he's been really, really impressive. And I've gone for Jimmy Feehan at Tipperary. The reason I went for Jimmy Feehan is that a tip man tweeted me last night that none of Jimmy Feehan's direct opponents have come out in the second half of their games. I don't know whether that's true or not, but I'd well believe it looking at the way Feehan plays.
Sorry, what? You don't know whether or not that's true. Some randomer, his brother maybe, his ma gets in touch with you on Twitter.
2 of them definitely didn't come back out at half time. I know that for sure. So Jimmy Feehan has kind of transformed himself from being a flying wing back into a real hardy fullback. And this might be the reason why, but I needed to get another tip man into my team. I think they deserved more than the one All-Star that I've given them so far. And, you know, you can give me all the slagging you want, but I tipped Tipperary to beat Cork all last week.
And you're only giving them 2 All-Stars.
I'm only giving Tipperary 2 All-Stars. Oh. And look, I actually think I'm actually giving them a fairly good chance against Mayo. So, you know, turn over Mayo, and Michael Quinlivan will have an All-Star and Conor Reardon will have an All-Star.
Is this because you haven't seen enough of them?
Pick them yet. No, I've watched Tip. I've watched Tip against Limerick. I watched Tip against Cork, obviously, and I caught the highlights of the Clare game. But I just felt like they were grand against Clare. They were lucky against Limerick. Sweeney saved them. And they were exceptional against Cork. Really, really good. Like, I wanted to pick a man like Liam Casey, but there's too much competition around midfield at the minute. I'd love to pick Conor Reardon after one game. He's a monster. But I think if Reardon has a big semi-final, he could be in the mix for Footballer of the Year. So, and Quinlivan, Michael Quinlivan is one of my favourite footballers in the country, but he was quiet the first 2 days. Like, he set up a goal in the first game. He scored a point in the second game, but he like really came alive in the Munster final. So if Quinlivan has a big semi-final and Tip beat Mayo, like, Quinlivan's a guaranteed All-Star as well. But okay, so that's my full back line. Bring it on to the half back line. This was really easy. Paddy Durkin and Owen McLaughlin from Mayo are the 2 wing backs. They've been 2 of the best footballers in the country so far this year. And John Small is my centre back. I think he's one of the most underrated footballers in the country. At the minute, I don't know what the odds are in Small, but I would actually say Small is a good shout for Footballer of the Year. He does unbelievable work for Dublin. And he sets the tone. He brings a level of aggression that is very difficult to replicate if you don't have it in you. And I know he toes the line sometimes. But for me, he's everything that's good about Dublin, and that's kind of the reason they absolutely smashed me the last day. They were just relentless in the tackle. They were relentless in their intensity. So John Small is my number 6. I would love to have picked Padraig Mogan from Donegal. I would absolutely have loved to do it. He was class. He scored obviously the goal of the season. Just give me 1 second. My phone will do on disturb. Sorry, lads. So he scored a goal of the season. Like, I don't care about David Clifford's goal in the club championship this year. Padraig Mogan's goal of the season was unreal when he broke through this year. But I couldn't pick him. My midfielders, Brian Fenton, obviously, heartbeat of that Dublin team, and Thomas Galligan. When I grow up, lads, I want to be Thomas Galligan from Cavan. What a footballer. What a warrior. He is class. He's all blood.
He's footballer of the year.
He's in the mix,
if you picked it now.
Oh, he's absolutely in the mix for footballer of the year. Like, he's an inspirational character to have in your team, and like, he wasn't even a guaranteed starter on the Cavan team at the start of the year. Like, he was an impact sub in a lot of ways. Speaking of impact subs, we'll come back to him a little later. But Thomas Galligan is my midfielder. I thought about putting him into the half forward line or the full forward line and bringing in Matthew Rand from Mayo. Thought about bringing in Liam Casey from Tip, who scored 1-4 and was brilliant the last day. But I let them go because there's a lot of quality up front. I really struggled with my half forward line. I only sent my team in about 5 minutes ago because I've changed it about 6 times. I've changed one player in my half forward line, my number 11. So my number 10 is Kieran Kilkenny. I think he's been Dublin's best forward so far this year. I know he's playing a little further inside a lot of the time, and Con's out around 11. But I've gone for Kilkenny over Con O'Callaghan. Con O'Callaghan was exceptional against Dublin, or against Meath, sorry. Like, he was class. What? And Con O'Callaghan may end up being unbelievable in the All-Ireland semi. Con O'Callaghan's not my team. No, he's not. I thought he was quiet. I thought he was quiet against Westmeath. I don't care. Absolutely sound against Laois.
He crushed. There are moments in games where you rip the heart from your opponent, and it was his catch for the goal, and it was the vision, and they're like, oh, the goal is on, lads. We're going to do this now. That's like ridiculous.
Yeah, I may be wrong. I may be wrong, but I just feel like Kieran Kilkenny. I feel like Kieran Kilkenny's been more important.
There's not either or. They're both in your team. Like, this is the best team in the country. Like, average winning margin of a million gazillion points. Go on, keep going.
Like, yeah.
Con has to be in the team. He's footballer of the year.
I don't know. I just thought he was very quiet against Westmeath and very quiet against Laois. And I've gone for Sean Bugler in my half forward line as well. I think Sean Bugler has been an all-star for him this year. And he scored a couple of goals, so 2 goals for Dublin. And I think he's been one of those players that are setting the intensity for Dublin. Like, Dublin, fair enough, they smashed Meath, but Meath were broken after that first goal. Con, obviously.
By Con O'Callaghan.
Key man in that.
Yeah.
He was the key man in it.
Yes.
But, like, it was what Dublin did across the rest of the game.
Several other catches around midfield. Go on.
The likes of Bugler and John Small did far more than that. And my other half forward, I haven't gone from Ger Eoin from Cavan. I feel like I'm going to regret that. I haven't gone from Michael Quinlivan. I've said it already. I think he needs a massive semi-final against Mayo to back up that Munster final. I've gone from Michael Langan from Donegal. I think that it's not going to be just for provincial winners that are going to make up this team. I think that Donegal were in serious form. I think there's a number of reasons why they fell short against Cavan. Michael Langan wasn't one of them. Michael Langan was one of their main footballers all year. He's been absolutely exceptional. He's definitely been an all-star for him. He's so important to that team. And I actually think Kieran Thompson missing in that half-forward line was one of the main reasons that Donegal didn't get the job done against Cavan. Langan, for me, is in there. It's probably harsh on McKiernan. It's probably harsh on maybe an Aidan O'Shea, who's not in my team, and maybe harsh on Con O'Callaghan. But I just think that Michael Langan has been an all-star for him this year. And there's going to be one player outside the provincial winners, and it's going to be a Donegal man. If you look back at the All-Star team from the year 2000, the last time we had a knockout All-Star team, you had one player from Kildare who won the Leinster Championship that year, and they actually played 2 replays that year. They played a Leinster final replay, and it was an All-Ireland semi-final replay as well. But you had 2 players from Derry who lost the Ulster final to Armagh that year. So I feel like we're going to get one Donegal man there. Langan's my man.
Did Derry win the league in 2000? I bet you look back, there'll be some crap around. Oh, they were great in the league, and we need to give the league its due deference for that. Well, they used to smoke in the rooms, Tommy, back then. That's what the year 2000 was like.
There was often provincial runners-up, and Langan deserves it. I'm telling you, I'm sticking with this one. My full forward line.
Can I just, sorry, hang on a second.
Dean Rock.
Hang on. Are you picking the team that you think the All-Stars selectors are going to pick at some point and trying to shoehorn rules in? Are you picking your team?
This is my All-Star team so far this year. Okay. 100%.
Okay. But you said, I think there'll be somebody from outside. What's that got to do with anything? Not in your team. You've decided there's going to be somebody from outside the provincial winners. That's your choice.
Michael Langan deserves to be there 100%. Dean Rock sneaks in ahead of Jordan Morris, just about. My full forward is... Who is my full forward? Conor Sweeney is my full forward. Conor Sweeney is in the mixed football of the year at the minute. Conor Sweeney. And the corner forward is Killian O'Connor, who's in exceptional form for Mayo, and Mayo need another forward in there because they've beaten Roscommon and they've beaten Galway, and that's 100% it. That's my team. So
give me your full back line quickly. Give me your goalkeeper full back line again quickly.
Ray Galligan in goals. Let me just get up here one last second. Ray Galligan in goals. Oisin Mullen Mayo, Padraig Faulkner Cavan, Jimmy Feehan Tipperary, Paddy Durkin Mayo, John Small Dublin, Owen McLaughlin from Mayo, Brian Fenton and Thomas Galligan Ciara Kilkenny, Michael Lang and Sean Bugler, Dean Rock, Conor Sweeney and Cillian O'Connor. So look, what change would you make? Is Conor O'Callaghan the only change you're going to make to that team? If so, I'm happy enough.
Owen?
Sorry,
you tuned out 20 minutes ago. Did you? You're like...
No, I thought you were... I thought you were asking Ger there. Would you say is Conor O'Callaghan the only change you'd make?
It sounds like it is. Ger was trying to put David Clifton on my team last night, so...
I'm surprised you haven't gone for any Meath man. I think you're right, but I'm surprised you haven't been swayed by your heart there to put any Meath man in there.
No, I wasn't. If they put up a performance against Dublin, which unfortunately they didn't, I'd say there would be a Meath man in there. They were exceptional for a half against Kildare. They were exceptional for 50 minutes against Wicklow, but we have to be honest, it's Wicklow and the Ulster Championship is is weighted far more than that. Like Donegal had big games against Tyrone, they had big games against Armagh, so and Langan was brilliant for the first half as well. So that's why I've gone for a Donegal man over a Meath man on my team.
Can we stick the graphic back up for a minute?
Perfect.
So,
anyone else, Owen? Have you no other changes to your own? Like, is that? I don't know if I'm going to get away with it this lightly.
Dublin, don't worry.
I would have Conor O'Callaghan. I expected this to be like a Meath infested team. To be quite honest with you,
I'm not a troll. I'm not a troll, Owen. Like, I'm not. I'm doing this by sheer analysis and by watching as many games of football as I can. Like, I'm not going to just stick Tipperary into 13th one week, and then they go and win a Munster Championship final, and then put them into 7th, and then throw Meath back to 13th. Just in a win because they're beaten by the greatest team ever. I'm not that type of analyst when it comes to GA. I'm picking this team based on what I've seen over the last couple of weeks. I'm not a reactionary pundit, you may say.
They weren't beaten, they were destroyed, embarrassed, humiliated.
I wouldn't go that far. I wouldn't say embarrassed.
It was.
I wouldn't say humiliated. I'd say that the Munster Championship was broken, as we saw yesterday.
No.
They were broken.
That's a separate piece. No, and it's true that Kildare would have been more than likely embarrassed and humiliated too, but like, look, Tom, you lured us all into this weird sense of there perhaps might be a game here. They've got all that speed. They've been working on scoring goals. Yeah, you're right. There's a credible case here.
You know what? The one mistake I made was not jumping on Navan or Nowhere a week earlier. Like, I'm telling you, get them out of Croke Park. Like, that's the only difference with this Dublin team, isn't it?
5 dubs.
I can't hear any other options, lads. Like, I'd like to hear what you think. Like, Oisin Langan has been to all the Cavan games this year, and he's saying Conor Madden. I couldn't pick Conor Madden off the back of 2 super sub appearances. Like, it'd be an incredible story if Conor Madden made the All-Stars, but I think he needs a start, or again, another All-Star appearance where he scores a goal to beat the Dubs in the last minute that I don't see happening. So, I don't know. Kieran Conor Brady, I wanted to put him in for his nickname alone. He lives in the Holla in Cavan, and that's why he's called Holla Brady. A hollow, if you don't get my accent there. But Brady's been exceptional in terms of that Cavan defence. Jason McLaughlin man-marked Ryan McHugh last week, but I couldn't get 5 Cavan lads in there. I actually don't think they were good enough, like, in terms of all-star form to get in there. Like, there's 4 Cavan lads, and I think they'll get 3 in the all-star team. That's why McKiernan didn't make it either. So the 2 Galligans of Faulkner are my bankers for that Cavan team.
I think it's a really good team. I think that, like, the bolters in that Dublin team where the new faces, the likes of McDade and Bugler are both going to be in contention for All-Stars come the end of the year, and I think McDade could end up pushing out. It's hard to see who actually gets pushed out there. Maybe Jimmy Feehan if they get beaten in an All-Ireland semi-final come the All-Stars at the end. But I think it's hard to look beyond them, and I think it is probably Small versus McDade. Maybe I'm not even sure who else you could throw into that conversation for that Dublin back, because those two have been so good. But like, I think Durkin has to be there. I think McLaughlin's been brilliant. I think Mullen's been brilliant, and Faulkner obviously has been a rock. So a lot of this is like these unbelievable performances that you can't really look past. The midfield is very obvious. I would agree that Conor O'Callaghan maybe should be shoehorned in there. You can't go in ahead of Ciarán Kilkenny. I think Ciarán Kilkenny is maybe on course for his best ever Dublin season. I think Michael Langan's been amazing. I think if you talk about Padraig Mogan scoring goal of the season, I think Michael Langan's goal against Tyrone wasn't half bad either, and will be in with a shout for goal of the season as well. He has to be there. As I've mentioned, Bugler is brilliant. I think it's Bugler versus Conor O'Callaghan, because you can't look past Cillian O'Connor. You can't look past Sweeney. So it's Bugler, Rock, Conor O'Callaghan, and 3 into 2 won't go. So I think your logic is actually close to being spot on, to be honest. But it is hard to see a team there without Conor O'Callaghan at the moment.
Conor O'Callaghan has to be in the team. He has to be in the team. And here's the thing.
I don't know, Ger.
I know we're picking them.
I didn't actually Yeah.
I know we're picking them at this stage, but I again, look, you know that Conor Callaghan is going to have big semi-final and big final because.
But it's not. I'm not like that's what I'm saying. Like I'm saying, if Michael Quinlivan has a massive semi-final, he's in my team. If Conor Callaghan has a massive semi-final, he's in the All-Star team.
I just think,
like if you want me to predict them,
the Westmeath game, they're running through the motions. It doesn't really matter that much. The Laois game, again, they're running through the motions. The Meath game, they were up for, and in the 5 minutes when it really mattered, Con turned it on and turned the screw, and that's the sign of a player who's capable of putting the team on his back if they need him to. They don't need him to because he's not alone. He has Fenton and he has Kilkenny, and that trio, I think, are playing as good as any trio I've ever seen play. Like, we're talking about elite level of performance. I just can't wait to see them in a match where it actually is put up to them. And, you know...
I'd love to see it too. I'm not sure it's going to happen this year, though.
Maybe it doesn't. Maybe it's a 10-point semi-final victory and a 10-point final victory, and the conversation that we started yesterday on the show becomes an absolute din. And at that point, it's going to be very difficult to sort the wheat from the chaff in terms of good quality content.
Just to get clear, are you choosing Conor Callaghan in your team based on 5 minutes against Meath?
No, because I think he's been excellent. I think his standards haven't dropped. I think he's the best footballer in the country at the moment. I think if we're in the midst of a greatest footballers of all time debate that's been going back. It's been LeBron versus Jordan. The Irish version of that has been what's this superstar in Kerry? What's his capability going to be versus what's this superstar in Dublin going to be? And you would have to say that Con has taken a big lead over Clifford in that debate this year. And I think that he's in the All-Stars team because, like, if you don't pick Conor Callaghan in the All-Star team,
I don't think he has, Ger. Like, I actually don't think he has. I don't think you're I don't know. I don't think he's overtaken Clifford this year either, to be honest. Like, I think if you look at that catch against Meath, like, can I just say one second? I'll let you jump in one second. Like, I couldn't understand how on earth Conor. I can't get my head around it. Like, maybe I'm broken by Saturday night, but how on earth Cluxton was able to pick him out after that turnover in the middle of the field with number 14 on his back and not a Meath man near him. I couldn't understand it. It's not a new tactic. Like, intermediate and junior clubs around the country bring their number 14 out to midfield for kickouts. How was there not somebody on him? Like, it was like,
I don't know, maybe
it was amateur stuff.
Maybe he's unmarkable.
That Conor Callaghan goal was amateur stuff. And he's definitely not unmarkable. And I saw for the second kick out, like, he won 3 or 4 kickouts. I saw for 1 or 2 of them, he did a very simple push in a Meath defender and got a kick out then. Like, geez, he's class. He's a superstar. But, like, it was amateur stuff for Meath in a lot of ways. And I actually think that psychologically they were broken very early on in that game because I actually think their game plan just didn't click for them for whatever reason. You can see with Donegal at the weekend, sometimes things don't happen for a team. Donegal waited and waited and waited, but Cavan just ate them alive.
Go on.
Donegal still believed they were going to, kick an equaliser later on, and Garrod McKiernan took a chance and launched that ball into the square. Feck it, maybe Conor Madden should be in my team. If you're putting Conor Callaghan in there, I'm probably putting Conor Madden in ahead of Conor Callaghan, to be honest with you. Conor Callaghan is not in my All-Star team at the minute.
I think you can't be making generalised statements on greatest players of all time when the team that one of them plays for is at an unbelievably higher level, plays in a province in which they're absolutely killing everybody. Like, I just don't think... I think you're getting confused with the gap that's opened up between Dublin and the rest rather than the gap that's opened up between, say, Conor Callaghan and any other individual in the country. That's all I'm saying. He's a phenomenal player.
Who's enhanced the reputation more in this off-season, in this season, Owen?
Clifford for me, to be honest.
Conor Callaghan slightly. Like, I mean, like, if you're talking about the entire season as a whole, including the club season,
yeah.
Like, I don't know. Like, it's impossible to not enhance it's very, very tough to enhance your reputation if you're not playing for Dublin really in any given season. It's as simple as that. And
what we've just put like a bunch of Cavan lads in the All-Stars team. We've just put a bunch of new Mayo people in the All-Stars team. We've put a bunch of Tipperary players.
Every single season, Conor Callaghan's reputation is going to be enhanced. There is no question about that. He will be playing in an All-Ireland final for the vast majority of the years that he is playing. There is no other county who can say for sure that they will be playing in an All-Ireland finals for the vast majority of their career. So he will always be in the shop window. Of course, what you do in the shop window is what matters, and he's a phenomenal footballer. Outside of Brian Fenton and Stephen Cluxton and Jack McCaffrey, I think at worst he is their 4th most talented footballer. He probably even pushes into the top 3 if you go beyond that again. He's like on pure talent alone, he's probably ahead of Stephen Cluxton and is up there with McCaffrey and Fenton.
The team isn't chosen until February, Ger, so you have plenty of time to get Con in there.
Don't worry, he's going to be there. I know it, you know it, and you guys all know it. Tommy, this is the bit where 5 minutes ago you would have been shouting, "Get off." I can't believe the absentee. Did you just give us the fingers? Did you just give us the fingers?
No, wait. Sorry, lads. No, I went like that.
Oh, right. Sorry,
lads.
8:45. Sorry, it was out 8:45 this morning. John Duggan is here. John.
Morning, lads.
Is Conor O'Callaghan in your All-Star team?
No.
He's not.
The All-Star team is generally a makeup of the finalists of a season, and it's completely incomplete at the moment. So what I went for is 6 Dublin, 4 Mayo, 3 Cavan, 2 Tipperary. But it's very likely that Conor O'Callaghan could have a starring performance against Cavan, a starring performance in the final, and then he's automatically, and then it's obvious as day and night that he's in the team. Like Michael Murphy, should he be in most All-Star teams? Should David Clifford be in most All-Star teams? It's just generally based on what you've seen, and we haven't really seen that much yet to make a team out of it. I went for a team of, could be completely wrong here, Raymond Galligan, Michael Fitzsimons, Padraig Faulkner, Oisin Mullen, James McCarthy, John Small, Paddy Durkin, Brian Fenton, Matthew Ruane, Michael Quinlivan, Kieran Kilkenny, Garrett McKiernan, Killian O'Connor, Conor Sweeney and Dean Rock. Not that far from... You put James McCarthy in, and I think there's probably going to be a case for James McCarthy to come in as well in the 2 big games that they have to play. So, right, the debate has started. Yeah, sure, this is what it's all about. R.I.P. your mentions is all I'll say. Yeah, this is what it's all about, and there's no science and there's no right answer, and everybody gets very impassioned. That is why we love the sport and love sporting debate. You might say there's no right answer. I would contend that there is definitely a wrong answer, and there. The wrong answer is to leave Conor O'Callaghan
Many times there have been wrong answers. That's what I think at the moment. So anyway, go on. Okay. So Chelsea through to the last 16 of the Champions League. Manchester United 1 foot in the next round. Olivier Giroud's injury time header sending Chelsea through to the knockout stage with 2 games to spare. The Blues beating Rennes 2-1 in France last night. 6 wins in a row. Playing Spurs the weekend. Fascinating match that. Man United taking control of Group H, a 4-1 defeat of Istanbul. Başakşehir here at Old Trafford. Bruno Fernandes scoring twice in the opening half, then very unselfish to give the ball to Marcus Rashford to get the 3rd goal from a penalty. Daniel James with a late goal for United to make it 4. 9 goals now in 13 games for Fernandes. As manager Ole Gunnar Solskjaer praising his contribution.
Of course, we see him every day in training. We knew what we were going to get when we got Bruno to the team. He's a player who likes to take risks. He likes to create chances. He likes to score goals. He likes his team. He's a winner. He wants the team to win. So and he wants the team to do well. And I think it shows today that he can do more than just take penalties.
Now Liverpool and Man City are looking to secure their places in the last 16 tonight. City away to Olympiacos in Greece 5-6. Will Sergio Aguero play? We're not sure of that. Liverpool might have Mo Salah back in their team. He missed the match against Leicester due to a positive COVID test, but available this evening to play Atalanta at 8 o'clock. Jurgen Klopp's side 5-0 winners when the sides met earlier this month, but this is a completely new test according to Klopp.
Yeah, Atlanta is a threat without a point to prove, to be honest. But of course, the night at Atlanta was a really special one. We played exceptionally well, pretty much everything. But we are not only since yesterday in the business, so we know that this game that we really have to be ready again.
Sligo Rovers taking on Derry City in the quarterfinals of the FAI Cup at the Showgrounds tonight, 7:45 start. The launch of the All-Ireland Football Championship took place yesterday. Mayo playing Tipperary Sunday week at Croke Park. Brian Fox, the veteran Tipperary player, basking in what happened at the weekend, that Munster title, that famous win after 85 years. And he's been speaking to his uncle Pat Fox, who won Hurling All-Irelands with Tipperary in 89 and 91.
Pat, he has the experience of having had that huge success himself. He just wants to wish his congratulations and say, hey, enjoy it, because it's only when he looks back on it now, he says he probably doesn't appreciate it for what it was, and so definitely over the last few days been really trying to enjoy the motor in it, and the whole, I don't know how to even describe it, the whole atmosphere around the place, in the county, people are just saying it, there's just a big lift around the county, the mood has changed from one of being, kind of depression and, overshadowed by COVID to one of real, sunlight and stuff like that.
Depression to sunlight, that is how important sport is. And Brian Fox also telling us that some people cashed in on Sunday.
No, a lot of friends of players had bets, all right. The boys, in fairness, now would be pretty good not to put bets on themselves just out of, I suppose, don't want to jinx it. I know one lad showed me, one of the boys showed me a text he got from one of the lads afterwards. I don't know who put the bet on. I couldn't tell you the name. He put on a fairly big bet, and he was something to stand to win. It was ourselves in Cavan, I think. He was stood to win. Was it $2,000 or something? The odds were phenomenal, and this lad didn't put on a huge bet, but he still got over €2,000. So
there's always somebody who does it. Snooker, Ireland's Leo Fernandez will be hoping for the result of his life in the UK Championship later, playing Ronnie O'Sullivan in the opening round. Antrim's Jordan Brown facing Martin Gould this afternoon, and horse racing on the all-weather Dundalk 2:05 start, lads.
Right, good stuff. John, thanks very much for that. OTB AM is live in association with Gillette. Good mornings start with Gillette, giving you the confidence to tackle the day ahead. That point about the importance of sport, it's interesting that it's a multi-generational thing in Tipperary.
Yeah, it's great. Yeah, the era Ogan McCarthy. Pat Fox, remember, was a brilliant hurler. I believe he won Hurler of the Year in 1991. Just talking about the depression people are feeling in Tipperary to sunlight, and they're not going to wear the jersey on Sunday week. They're going to. I was actually just saying this on News Talk a few moments ago, folks. It's not a call to action here. Get the jersey. If you're a Tipperary person, you got to get that jersey, because 5-10 years time, how many of those jerseys will be in circulation with Michael Hogan on the sleeve, and it'll be a real collector's item because they're not going to wear it again. Yeah.
I understand why they're not wearing it again. You know, can you put a sponsor on that jersey? And then did they have the sponsor on the jersey at the weekend?
No, they didn't. The word, the Tipperary in gold lettering.
Yeah, and so you'd be taking that off, and you need to put the sponsor back on, because obviously it's the biggest game, and that's the whole point. That's the reason why companies get involved, and I can completely understand that. But maybe you could just put a sponsor on it, and it would still look cool.
Well, it's a lucky omen now. It's a lucky charm, and when I think of blue and gold, I obviously think of the hurlers. I don't think of the footballers, and now the footballers are now.
That was their chance to move to that colour, and they would have had the coolest away strip,
Yeah, they could wear it. They could wear it as an away strip. I don't really remember 4 years ago the Mayo, but thinking of blue and gold, I'm thinking of red and white. They sound to me like clashes. It sounds to me like a bit of a clash. Maybe I'm wrong, but or green and red. I don't know about the colour tones of that. So. Look, we'll wait and see in the future, but anybody, once again, it's like that programme the other day with that kind of Meath Dublin programme, which was the design back 100 years ago. That's a collector's item, as will the jersey be for Tipperary, because what a day for them. Like Nicky English, I read the column, and I'm kind of reading the column, and Nicky's great analysis of hurling, and at the very end he says he never cried, and the only time he ever cried like being a Tipperary person was after the football journey.
Wow, that's pretty impressive. One last thing on this. Yeah. You mentioned the programmes there. Are the programmes on sale?
You can get them from DVA, yeah. We can get them.
And so will they be for sale for the finals as well? Is that because that's obviously something that is important in people's lives, where they won't be able to get to go to this game?
That is a good question. We can definitely find that out, because I know the commemorative one, because people were you've seen the tweets and the images. This looks amazing, and I picked it up on Saturday, and it is beautiful. So yeah, that is a very good question, and I expect and I would hope that they will. And I'd actually love to see some kind of commemoration of the hurling and football finals, rather than just being a standard. This is coming Luke Cascale. This is the Clihacanis for the Naharan for the hurling and football matches.
Yeah. All right, John, good stuff. Thanks a million for that. It's 8:53 a.m. this morning. We'd love to hear from you. If you want to get involved in any of the conversations that we're having, the number is 087 9180 180, and you can also use the hashtag OTBAM. Now, we want to talk about a fundraiser that is taking place on the 5th of December. It's called Fill the Aviva for Philly. It's being organised for Philip Caldwell, a well-known face of club rugby in Dublin, who recently suffered a severe spinal injury which left him with temporary paralysis from the neck down. The accident occurred during a tag rugby match on the 13th of July. And I'm delighted to say Philip is with us this morning. Philip, good morning to you.
Morning, guys. How are you?
How are you getting on?
Not too bad. It's been a bit of a whirlwind since that fateful day back in July. An awful lot's happened. I've gone from spending 3 months in the Mater Hospital to now being transferred over to the NRH, which is just an amazing facility, a real, to use a rugby term, a real academy, a real, just a mecca for getting everybody as close back to as we can possibly get to, with extensive training, I suppose. I'd sort of call it. I have extensive sort of hydrotherapy where I'm in the pool. I've got physiotherapy and then occupational therapy my hands and stuff like that. So it's definitely been a huge whirlwind from that fateful night where I was just running out to play a tag game with a bunch of friends to having the life sort of turned a bit up on its head, you know.
Will you take us back to the tag rugby? Because I presume, like everybody, lockdown, peak lockdown, everybody thinks they're never going to get back doing any sport, and then sport re-emerges in all our lives, and I'd say we were never as thankful for the opportunity to get out and see other people and do things that felt vaguely normal at the time. So you must have been incredibly excited when the tag rugby season comes back. What actually happened?
Well, that was exactly it. I got a phone call, a random phone call. I'm going to give a small plug to myself here. Many years ago, I managed to play Leinster under-21s rugby, and
so you're a ringer.
I actually got a ringer, exactly. I was the hired-in pace that night. So basically, I got a phone call from my old rugby coach who actually selected me for Leinster under-21s to say, would I come down and play a social tag rugby game. So I was pumped up thinking, this over 35s gig, I can be the wheels and turn back the clock and all that. So I arrived down, and actually as fate would have it, Lansdowne, the club that I played for, were on the pitch directly opposite me. So I noticed a few faces and was kind of a little bit cocky, sort of saying, geez, you didn't give me the call for that one, lads. I'll show you what you're missing out on this pitch here beside. So I arrived down, I was there. Sorry.
That's all right.
Last person to pick up the tags and just ran out like anybody would. And the game was literally 20 minutes old. Got the ball in my hands, made a few jigs as I often do, and crossed over to score the try, and then just wallop hit the fence. And the next thing I remember, I was sort of sprawled out. I'd had a gash to my head from hitting the fence, and I vividly remember everybody looking around me. And they were worried about the gash in my head, because obviously it was pumping blood or what have you, but that was the least of my worries. I knew straight away, no, this isn't good. So instantly I fell back onto my back and then went to the ground and just couldn't feel my legs.
Right.
So yeah, that was a bit of a shock. I remember actually just calling out for an old rugby mate. There was a mate of mine, Andy Talon, giving him a plug out, and I was just calling for him. I just needed to see a face, because it was such a shock, you know. So initially, like I said, actually Lansdowne were playing the College of Surgeons that day, and there was people on site within seconds, do you know what I mean, making sure I was in the right position and everything was done. And I was very, very coherent for the whole lot of it. They got the ambulance out, and I was rushed off to the Mater Hospital, which is the #1 hospital for spinal cord injuries. So I was basically couldn't have had better care from literally second one. I spent a full week in the HDU then, where they were sort of they pumped me full of steroids, because I have a crack to the spinal cord, which led to a bleed into it. And then basically what they were trying to do was stop that bleed and then look to see what the extent of the damage was. And then from there, they'd be able to sort of layer a care plan. So like I said, I had 3 months there. It's weird. A very close friend of mine, a bit of a mentor of mine, Steve McIver, he would have a doctorate in mental toughness and peak performance. So within 2 or 3 days, not even 3 days, I had a phone call from him, and we sat down and said, how are we gonna look at this? How are we gonna reframe this? And it's been something that has really changed my whole outlook on the injury. So we kind of first said that this is a tragedy, okay, this is what's have to happen to us, but it leads to a challenge. And at the moment now, it's the biggest challenge I've ever faced, but yet one I really am taking on and tackling. It's like the biggest rugby team I've ever trained for. So from that, we sort of just set out some goals, and I've just been I've had an unbelievable, like you said, you've mentioned the outcry there, Phil the Aviva for Philly. Like, I just can't stressed enough. I'm even well up a bit here now thinking about the outpour from the rugby community, from my own community, from my family. It's just been spurring me on to get up and do sessions. So basically the hardest thing about this situation, I'll give a small example. Dan Levy, I was in the rugby, or I was at the Aviva whenever he did his cruise ship. So he'd have met with people. They said, right, there's going to be 15, 18 months and you're going to have to do hard work and get back. And I'm watching him now really quietly going about his business, putting his hand up again, maybe for Irish selection. More power to him. But the hardest thing about this is they don't know. They can't tell you, Philip, if you follow A, B, C, and D, and I'll do A, B, C, and D, and X, Y, and Z. It doesn't matter what I'm told to do, because you know the more you put in, the more potentially you're going to get out. But the hardest bit about it is not knowing on the other end. They can't tell you exactly what's going to come back. So I get these tiny incremental gains, these small little things. Like, started off in the matter, it was just twitches of my finger. I had an unbelievable OT who came in and worked an hour with me every single day. And basically, small things just going back, like a twitch of my fingers. So you just, all these little incremental things. But it's been a part of it that's been quite beautiful as well. If I took everything away from you and then slowly just drip fed you things back, it's amazing how appreciative you become of things. So, and it's going to be a long road. It's a 2-year fight. So they say you can continue to get gains in spinal cord for up to 2 years. So it's just about getting in that right mindset. And then the last thing that Coach Steve McGuire says to me is, out of this challenge might come opportunities. And look, listen, I listened off the ball all the time, and here's an opportunity now to just get out and tell a story. Because also, the one thing I will say is I've had to deal with this COVID as well, like everybody. But everybody's hurting at the moment. So there's, everybody, I think everybody can relate to sort of feeling depressed and a little bit down at this time. And it's not dwelling on that. Do you know what I mean? I allow myself to have bad days. That's a thing I'm learning. I'm allowed to have a bad day, and that's okay. But I suppose we talk about adversity and coming through stuff. It's about how you deal with that bad day, because the sun comes up the following day sometimes, and you just got to go and power on from that. And I think everybody's in that situation now with this COVID sort of thing, where since we've gone down to stage 5, we're all on sort of lockdown, wondering, geez, is this ever going to end? So, it's definitely given me the big word I'd say from this injury that I've got is perspective. You can change anything with a good perspective, and like I said, I'm not a hero who's always bubbling around. I am generally upbeat, but you'll have your bad days, power through them, and again, just been thankful for everything. When it comes back, it's, again, I get slagged because of the newspaper put it up and thing, like small thing like squeezing toothpaste out of a toothpaste holder. I didn't think I'd be able to, just small little things that come back to you and you're just going, wow. So it's been a bit of a whirlwind.
Philip, it's remarkable. Like the way you managed to have that positive mindset already, even before talking to your friend, even before talking to experts, it seems that was very much bedded in within you already throughout your life. Is that fair to say that positive outlook is a huge thing for you going through this right now, that you've always looked at ways out of situations or ways to help yourself and get the best out of a situation?
100%. When this comes in, like I'd say I've drawn on a couple of things. I've drawn, like I said, when we reframed it as this is a challenge, this is the biggest rugby team you're ever going to have to make. That just brought back, I was a couple inches too short to play whatever grade I was getting. I wasn't, and I used everything I had to get as far as I got. Do you know what I mean? I would have always had that drive. The lads that know me would slag and definitely have a little bit of little man syndrome in me and stuff like that. So I've drawn on all that. But the one thing I will say is I've sort of, again, looked at that. Look, my mate Steve McGuire, we've sort of looked at that. He'd sort of asked me, I'd fill in certain things like, what's my positivity like? What's my focus like? What's my state of happiness and sort of that? And I'm starting to sort of grade those sort of things. So I think it's in everybody. Do you know what I mean? I've had a good outlook on it, but I think it's incumbent on everybody when you're in a certain situation. If you're able to look at stuff, you can have a different outlook on it. I don't think... A small analogy I gave, if in the morning everybody woke up, I heard this about COVID, that some people who catch it, they only come back with about 60% of their respiratory system. That's a potential flaw or a thing that can happen if you catch the COVID. If in the morning everybody only had 60% of their breathing capacity, and you were told you had to follow all the rules to get back to the last 40%, I guarantee everybody would follow those exact rules, because there's just no way you would want to get back to your full breathing capacity. So I'm a little bit like that, in that it's been horrific that they haven't been able to tell me how much I'm going to get back. But when I look at my left here now, and I've got these, so the last thing to come back for me is my hands, which is quite tough because, like I said, I'm an active rugby player, play a bit of golf and stuff like that. But I've got things in my, so I've got these electric shock therapy that I get in my hands, and I've got squidgy balls, and I thread for fine motor neuron things. I file stuff through a little piece of lace and stuff like that to try and get that back. Every time I think about not doing that, or thinking, I'll give myself, I just look at my hands, and that's my reminder. No, it's not an option. It's not an option to give up. It's not an option to not do it because you want it back. So, yeah, it's kind of, again, just that reframing piece. Everybody's struggling now. I've got friends who are at home, and, people who are living in apartments on their own and stuff like that. And this COVID has been isolating, but it's also bringing us all together. But that's sort of, I can't wait for this Christmas. Do you know what I mean? It's where I like Christmas anyway, but like this one is just going to be an extra special one because I've been told there's a that I get out. So it's weird. It's how you reframe it. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. We're all finding it tough, but yeah.
Philip, it's unbelievable bravery. We might check in on you in a couple of months' time as well, particularly when after we fill the Aviva. It's a remarkable story. We wish you the very, very best, though. It is real bravery, and thanks a million for being able to share it. I know it's unbelievably difficult to talk about it at this very early stage. It must be so raw, but you've done a great job with us here this morning, and thanks a million.
Okay, listen, really appreciate it, guys. Keep up the good work. I love the show. Thanks
a million. Philip Caldwell there. And just to give you the details on this, so obviously we want as many people as possible to buy virtual tickets for Ireland and the game that they're playing. It's probably going to be against France, Italy or Scotland. At this stage, probably Scotland. The aim is to sell 51,700 tickets, i.e. every seat in the Aviva. Tickets are a tenner, single ticket for a tenner. All the money raised will go to the Philip Caldwell Trust, which will be used to financially assist Philly in his recovery. So that's rehab, physio, home adaptations. You can see that it's going to be a long job. These funds will help provide the support needed for him to help try and get back the life that he was living prior to the 13th of July. Any excess funds in the trust obviously will be donated to the IRFU charitable trust, which supports other injured sports people in the rugby community. And it's we'll tweet the link. It's ftaforphilly.com. We're going to take a quick break. The Bernard Brogan podcast, episode 2 with Tommy Bowe, is live at noon today on OTB Sports Radio. Episode 1 was Ty Kennelly. The rest of the day is Michael Owen, Ronnie Whelan, How We Coach Kids with Pat Daly, George O'Connor and Gizzy Ling. That's a retro panel. OTB Gold is Chris Herron, the Boston Celtics player who ended up taking heroin in Iran. And OTB is live from 7 o'clock tonight. Plenty to come over the next hour. We're back with Jess Kelly with our Christmas gift guide next.
OTB AM. This is OTB Sports Radio. Off the ball.
So anybody whose question I read out gets a Cadbury hamper, no less. So Teddy, one for
Where's
you.
Where's mine?
It's en route.
Honestly, it's the first Cadbury's appearance I've been to. It's the first Cadbury's appearance I've been to where I've walked in a room and not seen any chocolate. It's embarrassing.
They know you're a little fat little sausage, that's why.
Did you hear what he said then? Call me a fat little sausage. You can't call me a fat little sausage on camera, I mean.
No chocolate for Gaz. That's what they said on the front door.
Off the ball. Weeknights from 7 and weekends from 1.
This is OTB Sports Radio. Live 24/7 on the OTB Sports app.
In the Welsh game against Wales over in the Millennium Stadium, it was the same stadium that 16 months before I had wrecked my knee in the World Cup. And I came on in the 79th minute and 14 seconds. And I got the ball and got tackled by Jamie Roberts, and he landed on my leg, and I felt a crack. And I remember saying to the referee blew the whistle. Wayne Barnes said, "Scrum down, Wales ball." And I said, "Wayne, sorry, I think I've broken my leg." And he said, "What? You're just on the pitch." I said, "Yeah, I heard a crack." And the same buggy, the same medics took me off the pitch into the same medical room at 79 minutes and 54 seconds. So my final time ever playing for Ireland, I was on the pitch for 40 seconds. Wow. But I remember being taken off the park, and I knew that I had put everything in to get myself back onto that international stage again. And people said, you know, you were smiling coming off. And I was only smiling because you either laugh or you cry. You know it would be the last time you'll ever play for Ireland, but also the fact that I'd left everything out there.
Bet smart this season with stat betting on the Boyle Sports app. For the first time ever, bet on shots, shots on target, tackles, passes, assists and more, all powered by Opta. Why not check out the hottest action on the biggest game of the week right now on the Boyle Sports app. Boyle Sports. This is betting. Need help? Contact gamblingcare.ie. 18+.
OTB AM.
With Gillette, proud supporters of Movember. Gentlemen, let's move.
Right, our next guest just called me a dope. Jess Kelly, good morning to you. How are you?
Hiya, I'm sorry about that.
So what am I wearing?
You're wearing an Irish company's glasses. They're called Amber Eyewear. And the idea with these is that they reduce the blue light exposure. So we all know we're spending way too much time on our screens. I noticed at the beginning of the first lockdown, I was getting really bad headaches, and it kind of felt like my eyes were burning out of my skull, which is obviously not ideal.
No, not
great. So I went and bought these. They're 55 quid.
Right.
And the idea, as I said, is it reduces the exposure. So when I go home in the evening, I have a pair that have my prescription in them. They're a little bit more expensive if you wear glasses wearing human to get your prescription put in. I think it's around 130 quid. And you just wear them when you're watching TV, if you're on your laptop. I know a lot of people who are working from home are wearing them consistently now, even if they don't require prescription glasses, because it is making a difference. Don't pull that face.
No, I'm making a good face. I'm making a, like, it's very hard to buy gifts for people who you live with. Like,
really?
Yeah, because you've already got everything at this stage of your life.
No, but that's why tech gifts like this are great.
That's
though.
what I was about to say. This was my endorsement for it. It's like,
okay.
You're going to get it and you'll be like, oh, great, you bought me a pair of glasses that don't actually do anything. No, they're making you be a better person. They're making you healthier and less headaches.
You also get the benefit from it, though, as well, because it stops people moaning. You know, if you live with someone who's like, oh, I've got a headache and my eyes are sore and blah, 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 just give them these, and then you're solving a problem for you and a problem for them. So everyone wins. I'm a really nice person.
So they're not the only glasses you brought in. I know I'm not sticking to the order on our list here, but what are these?
These are very, very cool, but I was told that I also look like a dope when I wear them, as we can see here. These are new Huawei Eye Monster glasses, and the idea with these is that they are just normal glasses.
It's linking it with my computer or something, isn't it?
It's linking with my phone.
Right.
So the idea is that there's speakers built into the arms of the glasses.
Right.
And if I press play on my music, you can then hear it without having to have headphones in.
Okay.
You can also take calls. This is kind of a step into new types of wearable. We've heard a lot about the fitness wearables. This is now...
Do you remember everybody looked like a complete clown with the little Bluetooth earpiece, and they'd be wandering around, particularly businessmen shouting on the streets. You'd be like, this was before people kind of walked around speaking on the microphone, and they were like, oh, they've gone crazy. All the businessmen of Ireland have gone crazy, and there's this little device, a microchip in their ears that people are controlling them by.
Yeah.
Well, this is the next stage of that, right?
You kind of look like Anna Wintour.
That's the look I'm going for.
Yeah, you're nailing it. Yeah, it is. They are very cool. I think it's good innovation. The one thing I would say, though, is that everyone can hear what you're listening to. So if you're walking down the street and you've got a bit of Ariana or Tay-Tay on, everyone's going to know about it. Also, while they can take and make calls from them, if you're having sort of a bitchy conversation, everyone's going to hear about it. So just be mindful of that. Everyone can hear both sides of the conversation. I am excited by it, though. I think they're around €350. It's something new from Huawei, and I do think in the next 12 months we're going to see more of this type of stuff. But this is sort of the gift for the person who has everything.
Okay. These are the not the earphones that you lost last year famously.
Thanks for bringing that up again.
Oh, sure, look. But these are the next generation of those,
Yeah, these are the newer ones. So they are the Samsung Galaxy Buds Live. These are the ones that I absolutely love and adore. And if people ask me for recommendations of what they should wear for, whether it is for sport or for just going around, the mic quality is great as well. So again, if you're working from home and you're making and taking a lot of calls and you don't want to have the phone up against you, the Galaxy Buds Live are brilliant. They're usually around the €200 mark, but they're down at the moment to 179. and I would highly recommend them. Worth noting, they work with both Android and iPhones as well, so you don't have to have a Samsung phone to work with the Samsung headphones.
Okay, and then we've got some other stuff here. So
yes. Oh yeah, let's talk about that. So this is my favourite wearable of the year. I know every time I'm on, I'm banging on about different Fitbits, different Garmin trackers. This is another Huawei product, and this is called the Huawei Fit. And it's a smartwatch, again, that pairs to any device. You don't have to have a Huawei phone for it to work. It just uses normal Bluetooth. And it does all the usual fitness trackery bits. So it'll monitor your steps, your sport. You're like properly enjoying your little like model thing, aren't you really? You're having a great time. It'll do all of the stuff that you want it to do, as well as sleep. It has really good auto sport detection. But what I like about it is the compatibility between the different phones, because obviously I'm jumping from phone to phone the entire time. But because it uses normal Bluetooth, it'll sync up straight away. You'll get things like your messages. You'll be able to control your music output. So if you're listening to a podcast, you can pause it, you can skip it, and so on. And it's much more affordable than a lot of the other ones that are out there. It's usually €130 and it's on sale at the moment to €99, and it is, of all the ones I've tried this year, this is my favourite.
Okay, the quality has kind of rapidly increased in the wearables. It's gone from like this giant clunky thing, the old brick mobile phone style, to now something that's quite sleek and actually has functionality that you use.
Yeah, like a lot of them. I remember last year when I was here with you guys, I had one, I don't know if Owen wore it or if I wore it, and it kind of looked like a satellite dish on the wrist. It was so big, and it was just not comfortable to wear. It wasn't practical to wear if you wanted to, you know, wear it all day long or when you're sleeping and so on. But the functionality of them has gone up a gear. Fitbit brought out a new one called the Fitbit Sense, which Nathan Murphy is now walking around modelling. I don't know if you've noticed. It looks very like an Apple Watch. And it,
He's good at that. Like
he hustles harder than anyone else in here.
Wow.
But he has it, and the thing about that one is that has built-in ECG detection and stress management. You may have noticed he's like very zen now.
Well, no, he definitely needs that.
But that one is quite expensive. It's around €330. But it's because it has that next level med tech built into it.
Right.
We're going to see a lot more of that. You know, everything in our homes is becoming smarter, and it's there for convenience. Over the next 12 to 36 months, we're going to see it getting smarter, but for our benefit. So your fridge, you know, may not let you take a can of fizzy drink out of the fridge.
Well, then I'll break that fridge.
It's doing it because it loves you.
No,
because
it's not.
It's programmed to do so.
Shaming me.
But yeah, no, the Fitbits, the wearables are definitely getting better.
Okay, so we have...
Sorry, Ger, is this a case where people are looking for those very specific things like Nathan's fancy watch, like about your own health? What's the stat you use, your ECG? What is that? Like after the year that we've had, everybody's like taking better care of themselves, or at least attempting to take better care of themselves. And as a result, everybody wants a wearable that'll tell them how to look after themselves good.
Yeah, no, I see the benefit of it. Personally, though, I get kind of freaked out when I have too much information. Like, if it tells me that my heart rate is spiking, I'm like, oh, Jesus, I'm going to die, or I should be already dead. I don't like having that level of information. It is kind of medical grade information. It's very useful if you're someone who's training for a marathon, or if you're doing something alongside a fitness plan and you know what your goal is and you know what your heart rate should be, or, you know, what your... the different windows that you should be reaching in terms of your stats. Personally, I kind of walk from here to my desk and back again, so I don't need all that level of information. But people are curious about it, so I think once you don't let it kind of rule and ruin your life, you're grand.
I have a sleep tracker, and frequently I'll be awake in the middle of the night going, oh, I must check, and then it doesn't register that. And then there's other nights where I feel like I've been awake and where I feel like I haven't been awake, and it's just, I'm not quite convinced.
Well, this is what, because I was talking to Nathan about the Fitbit Sense, because he previously had a Huawei one and he wasn't happy with that because it wasn't picking up the fact that he was up in the middle of the night with his youngest child, and he wanted sort of, I suppose, a bit of martyrdom and be like, look, I did get up. And so it wasn't reflecting
you can't
accurately.
Cheat this thing.
Yeah, exactly. So I think they are getting better. I do think the higher end ones, like the Fitbit Sense, are more accurate. Sometimes, and I said this before, some of the lower end ones will count you kind of lifting up a slice of pizza as a step, and obviously that's not a step. So you do need the more accurate sensors, and they always say that these are not medical grade devices, so don't, again, kind of freak yourself too much out by them.
There's a Beats logo?
No, that is a Google Chromecast.
Okay,
so it's quite similar to the Beats logo, to be fair to you. This is the original Chromecast, and for those who don't know, this is the most used device in my house. It plugs into your TV with a HDMI port, and then it lets you stream all kinds of content from your phone onto the TV. So whether you have Netflix, Disney, if you want to listen to OTB and you can stream it through your TV, you can do all of that very, very seamlessly, and it's less than €40. I just think it's a game changer. A lot of the TVs now, the fancy pants smart TVs, the interface isn't fantastic. You know, if you go on Twitter any night of the week, you will see people quite literally yelling in capital letters on Twitter about how crap their TV interface is. They can't navigate it. This allows you to do everything from your phone. You just open the app that you want and then you're sorted. So I do think for 40 quid you can't go wrong. There's a newer version of this though, and it's just over 60 quid, and it's the Chromecast with Google TV. And it comes with a little remote, and the idea is that it pulls the content from all the different streaming services. So say you want to watch a comedy movie, rather than having to open Disney, Amazon and Netflix, it'll actually pull all the comedy movies for you into one sort of line, and it's easier to scan through. It is such a time saver. So if you are happy to spend the extra little bit of money, I would recommend it.
That's pretty good, because I signed up for Amazon and I have a, can't even remember, it's Panasonic TV, and they don't have Prime, so you've got to get it on the phone and then you've got to cast the phone.
Yes.
And sometimes it doesn't really work very well.
Yeah. This takes the pain out of all of that, and it also means that you're not going around looking for a HDMI cable, which is a pain in the face.
Yeah, because they don't really exist that much anymore. So this is the bit of...
Yeah, the other bit is just this.
Chipolo.
Yeah, this is my swipe card. I've wiped it down. But the idea with this little Chipolo, this is another passive-aggressive gift, and I would highly recommend it. So again, if you live with somebody or know somebody that constantly loses their stuff, whether it's their keys, whether it's their bag, whether it's their fob, you can get them a Chipolo, and they are €25, and it pairs to your phone via Bluetooth, and it means then you have an app on your phone where, like, I've turned my Bluetooth off there now, and it's just told me that I've lost access to my access card. You can track exactly where you last left it, so it'll come up on the map that it's here in Diggs Lane. I can also ring it, which is a game changer. So if you lose your keys constantly down behind the couch, you can call them and you can find out exactly where they are rather than tearing the house apart. This has been a welcome addition in my home for someone in particular.
So I used to have, what was the other one?
You had a tile?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You got to change the battery on the tile and then it goes. Is this the same?
Yeah, that's the same. Now, I find the battery life better on these than on the tile, and I also prefer, again, the interface on it, so I would recommend those over the tile.
And, sorry, can you change the battery yourself?
Yeah, you can. You just rip it open.
Ah, OK, because with the tile, I think that's basically it.
Yeah, no, so these ones are, it's kind of like the old school Nokia 3310s, you know, where you used to rip the cover off. You can kind of do that with them and pop a new battery in.
OK, that makes sense. There's a couple of other things here.
Yeah,
these are kind of
both
speakers, right?
Both speakers. So the one... the one that you just pointed there now, so that is the new Amazon Echo Dot. This is the 4th generation of it. I see so many of these selling this Christmas, between this and then the new Google Nest Audio, which is the new name for Google Home. These are the smart assistants that are also excellent speakers. You'll see the new design, the little spherical design. It looks so much better than the original one. And these are usually around 60 quid, and they're down to 40 at the moment. And I would highly recommend it for a whole host of different reasons. Firstly, you can stream audio to it. You can obviously use it as a smart assistant, reminding you things, telling you things. You can also play
Alexa,
your music.
play OTB Sports Radio on TuneIn.
That was very seamless there.
There you go.
Well done. This is not his first rodeo. They are great. For 40 quid, again, it's a nice novelty gift for somebody who doesn't have one. What I would recommend, though, is getting familiar with the different buttons on the top. Because there are buttons that you can mute the mic, which I do think is important if you don't want Alexa listening the entire time. You can also control the volume. It's getting better at recognising the Irish accent as well. This is something that I struggled with for quite some time with all of the smart assistants. It was like, sorry, I don't understand. It's like, yeah, get better. And they have got better, to be fair to them.
Yeah.
So I do think it is worth having in the home. I know some people don't like the idea of big tech spying on them, but they already know everything anyway, so...
And JBL, this is a
Bluetooth speaker, and it's only very small, as you can see there now. But again, this is a Bluetooth speaker that can pair to your laptop, your phone, your tablet, whatever you have in the home. It can pair to multiple devices. It's €56, and the reason I like this is because, again, you can see the entire body is speaker. So this could fill this entire room. It could actually fill a huge space with very little
a house party.
I suppose. Imagine, do you remember those? Back in the day. I think it's great. For 56 quid, I definitely think it's worth looking at.
And is it waterproof? It looks waterproof.
It is waterproof. It's very, very durable as well. So if we ever get to go to like a beach again or a pool again, it is definitely one to have.
And the last thing on the desk there, I don't know if you can see that, is...
This is a U-Star kit, and this is another Irish company. They make a few different products. So the one that you have there is more aimed at people who are content creators. So if you aspire to be a YouTuber or an OTB presenter, which is kind of the same thing, this is a good place to start. They also have another version that is the U-Star YouTuber kit, so it's the studio kit, and what comes with that is a green screen, a mic, a ring light, a tripod. It's essentially your start. It's everything that you would need, and it's only €33. And again, it's an Irish company, so I think it's a good one to support this Christmas.
That's basically what we have here in the studio.
Exactly, yeah.
Black Friday and Cyber Monday, it's worth buying your stuff.
But
no.
Do your research. So there was a few of the different stores had magazines in the different papers over the weekend saying about their different deals. What I would say is at the bottom of each deal, you will say that, it was on sale at this price from this date to this date, but we don't know what it was on sale for previous to that. So the shops can be quite good at making it seem like you're getting an absolute steal when you're not. What I would say is, firstly, do your research. Don't buy off the first site that you see. Even if there is a bright yellow sticker saying, it's a great deal, shop around. The Galaxy Bud Live headphones that you have there, I saw them on sale in one shop with 20 quid off, and then I found them in another shop with 40 quid off, and that's a big difference.
Yeah.
So make sure that you shop around. Also, and this is kind of the health and safety bit, don't ever put your credit card details into a website that doesn't start with HTTPS. The S means secure, and look for the little lock as well. If you have a Revolut card, you can use your virtual Revolut card. What that means is it generates a new number and 3-digit PIN every time you put it in, and that means you're less likely then to get your card skimmed.
All right, Jess, great stuff. Thanks a million. There's plenty of food for thought for our listeners and our users out there. I just want to tell you a little bit about the... you saw a clip of Tommy Bowe there. It's episode 2 of the Bernard Brogan podcast a little earlier this morning. You can listen to the full episode later today on OTB Sports. First listen is at 12 o'clock on OTB Sports Radio, and you'll find the podcast on the OTB GAA podcast stream. It is brought to you thanks to Super Value, proud sponsors of the 2020 Championship. Hashtag support where you're from. Here's Ireland and FC Köln's Amber Barrett talking ahead of Germany's trip to Dublin next Tuesday. Have a look.
Honestly, it's huge for us. I think, building up to the last game, there was I suppose there was a lot of weight of expectation was on our shoulders going into the game against Ukraine, knowing a point would have got us a playoff place. But I think it's a little bit different now. I think, we're looking at I suppose we're in a position that if going into the last camp we wouldn't have ideally wanted to be in, but now, we're aware of what we have to do. To be honest with you, it's kind of hard to say, but it's just an average 90-minute game. Yes, the outcome of it is going to be huge for us, and it's going to be huge for us what it means going forward in the development of the team as well. So we're just going to have to put everything into it, but I think it's very important that we don't let the occasion get to us, and I don't think we want to get ahead of ourselves either and think, oh God, if you go 1-0 down after 20 minutes, oh God, what does this mean? Like I said earlier, the most important thing for us is staying in the game, and the longer we stay in the game, the more chance we have of getting a result. Yeah, it's been a couple of weeks of massive shocks. Maybe, just maybe, the women can put a tin hat on 2020 with a massive shock against Germany. We'll speak with Vera Pauw on Friday Nights Off the Ball, so that'll be part of our build-up to that game next Tuesday, and of course we'll keep you up to date with it as it unfolds. A couple of comments coming in. Is there anything you want to say about Christmas presents? Is there anything that you want to get out there to the general public that you'd like to ask for?
Anything and everything, really. All gifts are accepted, big or small. You can send them in to, if you listen to the Graphic Quiz, where our address is. I'll make one trip up to Dublin, collect a sack full of presents and bring them back home for Christmas. So send it anything, really. Is that what I was supposed to say there? Or
whatever, if there was something specific that you wanted, like a Kickstarter for Owen's waterproof speakers for, his pool parties that he's going to have next summer.
The pool parties, yeah. Absolutely. That's definitely the sort of thing that I would partake in. Definitely kind of half considering. So sometimes there is a little bit of a move and a little bit of a herd that you get involved in before Christmas, where it's like everybody's getting this thing. Should I be considering getting this thing? I don't have a wearable at the moment. Should I be considering getting a wearable? So I'm currently in that phase of, do I? And obviously the advertising and the marketing and the Jess Kelly gift guides is working. I'm the sheep in this, that I'm running along, and I will be wearing something new on my wrist probably next year.
Advertising works, it turns out, which is good for all of us. Right, so Shane says, no Oisín Kiernan, Garrod or Jerry Smith from Cavan. Dennis Ryan says, Meath were so bad on Saturday, they should serve a Sligo, i.e. 2 weeks at number 32. Do you know, Owen, I don't really disagree with that. I think he's right. We got rope-a-doped so badly by Tommy that I feel like somebody has to pay.
But like the question is, what did Tommy get rope-a-doped by himself?
I guess that's the glory of being a sports fan, isn't it? You believe all your own hype. Fahy's definitely in the mix. A good semi-final might get him in. Same for Quinlivan. And no James McCarthy, says Patrick Conway. That was a glaring omission, all right. Shane Walsh, Galway was outstanding all through the year, nearly dragged Galway to a Connacht title by himself. Should be at number 10, says Micheál McCarthy. Gordon McKiernan at 11, Kevin Fahy instead of John Small at 6, Patter Morgan instead of Owen McLaughlin at 7. McKiernan has been one of the main reasons why Cavan won Ulster, and O'Callaghan is a brilliant player, but he hasn't come up against anything yet. McKiernan was on a team that were behind in games. O'Callaghan would need outstanding semis and finals to get an All-Star, to be honest. He's a brilliant player, but you can't justify his performance to date, warrant him an All-Star. I think that, like we've seen in previous seasons, that he will have a big semi-final and final. There will be goals. Here's my prediction. There will be goals to come from him in the big games that we still have to have. And then Brian King says they were Graham Hunter sunglasses. The sunglasses, my Anna Wintour glasses, definitely seem to work. Right, still to come on the show this morning, we have some Tommy Walsh goodness and a couple of the Tip footballers and the Cavan footballers from last night's Off the Ball. Stay tuned. Max Darcy and Claire's Tony Kelly are going to be with us tomorrow. Here is, who is it? Padraig Faulkner and Ray Galligan. That's it. And then some hurling with Tommy Walsh and James O'Connor as well. Stay tuned.
Look at it. We lifted the cup in front of our family, and that's all that we wanted to do. I've had more phone calls to friends and family. The texts are coming in as fast as they're getting out. It's tough to keep up with the pace, but just everyone is so happy for us, family included. You know, they're the ones that we grow up playing football with and different things like that. And it was really for them that day as well. It's such a nice feeling to spend it with them.
Yeah. What about you, Raymond? Were you able to see people, or the people you couldn't see? Because I guess like the one thing you want to do at that moment is give everyone a hug.
Yeah, absolutely. Like that, as Padraig said, like we got our families to be able to come into Breffni Park and be able to stand on the pitch and watch us lifting the cup. And no, it was lovely like that. And I suppose I was very fortunate the way I married a Donegal woman, so it's we've had a good banter over the last couple of days.
I haven't spoken for the last 2 days.
Maybe by the end of the week.
So you want lots of Zoom calls with the in-laws this week?
Yeah.
Oh, so I didn't realise that. So they got your families into Breffni, where I guess they can socially distance, and then you lift the cup in front of them. Oh, that's a great idea. Magic.
Yeah. Wives, girlfriends. It made it special, you know. Yeah. And everyone was socially distanced, stand on a pitch, and it just they're the real ones you want beside you anyway when you're doing something special like that. And it was just lovely. It was a really nice feeling.
Yeah, that's very emotional, because there's a great atmosphere with that, and there's a real intimacy about it as well.
Yeah. And also we had, being only the 26 guys that were able to tug out, it gave the lads outside of the panel on that day to be able to be there and see us lifting it for the first time as well, like, you know, because it was such a
and it's very harsh then on them lads that's training all year that don't get to the games, you know. It brings them into the mix too on the electric atmosphere that does come with it too, not sitting at home.
Yeah, like it's one of those things I couldn't make the argument, oh, they absolutely should be there when they don't technically need to be, but geez, it's brutal. Like, and I'm sure today or tomorrow isn't the day they'll be talking about it, but there'll be a couple who were close to being in the 26 and sitting on the couch. It won't have been a good day for them, you know, and when the full-time whistle went, they'll have had very mixed feelings. I mean, that's so tough. I guess at least they got the Breffni thing, but it is tough.
Yeah.
I don't think they ever let their emotions show that they were annoyed. Like they were the first men that was straight up to us when they came back. I've been on panels where I've been dropped and different things like that, or you didn't get a jersey some days, and they were the first men straight up to you congratulating you, and it meant as much to us as it meant to them. So it was really nice.
Yeah. And with all the families there, would you guys would you know each other's partners and parents? Like, do they get a chance to mix down the years, or is it almost like you wouldn't know who's who half the time?
No, well, I think we'd have a fair idea, I suppose, just through the club scene, Cavan club scene. It is very tight knit kind of communities, and no, we definitely all be kind of know each other's families and that. Not really that well, but I suppose that's what winning does on days like that. I suppose unfortunately we haven't had many days like this, and hopefully we'll definitely have lots more to come.
Well, for sure. And again, I know you've more important matters at hand, but there'll be the 10-year anniversary and you'll probably get together in 20 years and all that kind of stuff. That's the great thing, I guess. 97 Cavan is just this thing in the county. I mean, when you say 97, you're only talking about one thing. It must be amazing, Raymond, to now be a little bit a part of history. I mean, again, I hope there are more Ulster titles to follow and it's not another 23 years. But suddenly now when people mention the team of 2020, God, to be part of that's an amazing thing.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, it's just it's really only today it's kind of sinking in that we have changed the landscape of Cavan football. And yeah, no, it's fantastic, and hopefully it's really going to help players and people who in the clubs to really get behind Cavan and try and get themselves back in and play for Cavan over the coming years, because it's an exciting time to be a Cavan footballer, and hopefully it's going to make the younger generation really want to play for their county.
Yeah. What age were you in 97, Raymond?
10.
So you'd remember it reasonably well, I'd say.
Yeah, to a degree. It was crazy. Playing us that day, it was just crazy. The pitch just surrounded up like blue and white, so it was mad.
Faulkner, what age are you?
I was only 3. I wouldn't remember. All I can remember is just the jersey I was wearing that day and a few pictures. That's all I can remember from that.
Because with your moustache, you look about 43 at the moment, so it's hard to tell.
Yeah, I grew it so I'd stop getting asked for ID when I'm buying drink.
So I presume it's a Movember thing. So, I mean, does it stay now as a lucky charm into December? It's hard to know as a team. I mean, Tyrone turned up with beards a few years back.
Yeah, no, it's staying. Yeah, that's it. That's it. It's the new look. Lucky mustache. No, so it'll be the first thing that's gone at the end of November. All this mask wearing now, it doesn't suit.
Oh yeah, masks and a tash is worse again, I'd say. So come here, look, I was hands up. I was one of many who said, "Well, Donegal, that's that. No chance. No chance." So, there were obviously things I missed in the brilliant comeback against Monaghan, and to do it again against Down, and grinding it out against Antrim, and you've come through so many games with the preliminary round. So I'm guessing, Raymond, when I looked at those matches and casually assumed, okay, lack of quality, they're squeaking through, they're getting lucky or whatever. What was actually happening were you lads were building some kind of bond through those games, I suspect now.
Yeah, absolutely. That was the thing. We knew after we beat Monaghan that it was, there was a massive opportunity here, but we only took each game by game, and we knew, I suppose, by the time we got to play Donegal, it was well documented we needed a massive performance for 70 minutes because we had played in patches in all the games, but we knew we'd done so much right over the last 3 games that if we got a complete performance that we would definitely be, thereabouts. The time nearly up, so yeah, it was just one of them complete performances, and we definitely believed we could do it, and I think that was key during the week. We really believed.
Yeah, so Padraig, when the good patches were there, they were really good, and they were of a certain quality. So it was just a case of
usually the second half.
Yeah, what's that about? I mean, I'm sure you're wondering yourself some days.
We the bookies rigged. You know, bet the other team half time and we'll come in at full time.
Because it's a weird thing. No team says to each other in the huddle, let's try and get off to a bad start here. Like, it's the biggest cliche in the book. We need to get off to a good start. So it's not like you weren't thinking about the start. It just one of those things.
I think it was. We were maybe overthinking things sometimes. Like, at half time, we had to have a chat with ourselves and say, what is going wrong here? Why aren't we doing the things that we said we'd set out to do? And it was just a matter of just doing those things in the second half and completely turned the game on upside down. I felt we always were prepared going into all those games. Just the slow start was just killing us.
The game was amazing on Sunday. I mean, it like Tipperary, it's extraordinary what they did, but in a way, they were just comprehensive winners and led from most of the game, whereas you fellas were on a bit of a roller coaster. Like, so many moments, like you lose a man to a black card, and in that 10-minute period in the first half, Donegal scored 7 points. So you know what the whole country was thinking when the second black card arrived. Like, that's going to tilt it. And then I'm kind of curious for your thoughts, Raymond, on the other end of the pitch when you're creating goal chances. There was one that was dragged low left and wide. There was a great save from the keeper the other time. So that's a good thing, but equally, you're not taking these goal chances. I mean, you must have been looking at each other at the other end saying, Jesus, we need to take one of these.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Like, to be honest, you know, when we went into the final quarter, that water break, we knew we had it because we knew the lads were still feeling fresh, and we were right in the game because I suppose we had played there the week before and we were comfortable shooting into them goals, and we were kind of just very confident, could sense it. But definitely when they missed them couple of goal chances, I remember saying to the umpire, I was like, is there extra time or is there a replay if this ends up a draw? And he was like, oh, Jesus, he's like, I'm not sure.
Of course he didn't know. Like, there's nothing sure in the world that umpire wouldn't have known the answer to that question.
Yeah. Yeah, so that was my thing. I was thinking, Genie Mac, this could be a draw game, you know, because you're creating so many chances and there was only 1 point so close to the end. But yeah, thankfully we pushed on and got that goal, which, you know, really was the difference in the end.
Yeah, God, that must have been a magic shot of adrenaline, Padraig, that goal going in.
Oh, it was the game dead and buried.
Yeah.
You know, that's the feeling that, you know, right, we've won here. I know there's no the game's never over till the final whistle goes, but that was just the icing on the cake. It was just the kind of last hurdle you had to get over before the finish line.
Padraig, could you tell us a bit about Mickey Graham? I mean, people will know what he did with Mullinochta winning a Leinster Championship was borderline miraculous in 2018. So is he a big talker? Is he a man of few words? Is he an arm around the shoulder type and asking you about your family and how's life? Or is he a disciplinarian and strict approach? What's his way?
He's a bit of an all-rounder. He has serious aspects in all of his management. He's the arm around the shoulder man. He's also the lad that'll ring you and give out stink when needed. He's an inspirational talker. Like, he really gets you driven up for a game before it. He knows what to say in the right times. Like, he knows how to get some lads on the side and others in other ways. He refers then. He really listens to his background staff and any management he has with him, and he really takes on everything that's said, both players and management as well on board. So he's a real all-rounder manager.
Yeah, Raymond, what impact has he made for you?
Oh, massive. Like, you know, as Padraig said, like he's all around, you know, approach to the players is just really is phenomenal. Like, and I suppose like that he's given massive ownership to the players, you know, like he's always spoken about it being player led, and you know, he put the belief into us over the last number of weeks, and you know, he's that way. The way he has of making us believe that we are good enough, and you know, I think Sunday showed that, you know, that belief really rubbed off him onto us throughout the game.
And Raymond, broadly speaking, what were the tactical points you guys were thinking about against Donegal?
I suppose we kind of learned from last year. Like, we probably overanalyzed Donegal and probably didn't put enough emphasis on ourselves. And this week it was just really about ourselves playing the best that we can. It wasn't the case that we were getting too worked up on matchups or who'd be marking who. It was more about we just all do our job, and we fully believed once we'd done that, we'd be good enough on the day.
Yeah, well, it worked out, that's for sure. How many weeks on the bounce now is that, Padraig, that you've played?
Well, my club team got to the county final as well, so that's actually I think that could be 12 and 13 weeks maybe, or it's something ridiculous like that anyway.
How are you feeling?
Grand. Ready to go again.
Sure, you're not doing any running back there anyway.
No. It's only short little sprints. There was actually one time we played a challenge match where Ray was in the goals and I was full back, and I ran 26 metres more than him. So,
and he was fast. He did more sprints as well.
I catch him one day.
So yeah, I know. Full backs, they can take the rest. It doesn't take too much. Those midfield is the way that does all the running. Dushy and Marty Riley's, they're the ones that's probably so.
Yeah, just 12 and 13 though. I'd say you're glad of a week's break anyway.
Yeah. Glad of a week's
break. We might
get
a challenge match next weekend.
Have you, correct, now there's probably some obvious game I'm not thinking about here, Raymond. Have you played a knockout championship at Croke Park ever before in your time?
I don't remember.
Yeah, okay.
No, because we played league finals there, but I did not
get knocked out by Kerry one time.
Oh yeah, sorry, in 13.
Oh yeah, he's tried to forget that one. Yeah.
Yeah, that was the last time. Yeah.
This is a huge deal. It's funny, we had Mike Quirk on, the Laois manager, last night, and with a bit of a grin on his face, but he sort of meant it as well. He was saying, well, this game doesn't have to be a croaker. If the Cavan lad said, well, we wanted a neutral venue, I mean, it's not like we need capacity of croaker. He was a Newbridge or nowhere type situation. Do you want Raymond to play a croaker, or in an ideal world would you prefer it to be tighter pitch, neutral venue?
It really doesn't, but it's not something at all that's been spoken about or we've talked about. So it really doesn't bother me. Like, obviously playing in Croke Park's lovely because that's where you always want to play. And sure, look, when you're playing the Dubs, you might as well play them in Croke, or like it's the biggest stage. So yeah, no, we're happy to play them wherever. To be honest, it's it makes no difference. I live in Dublin, so sure I'll be. Just up over the road.
Did you watch the Meath game on the Saturday night?
I did, yeah. Look, it was a very comprehensive victory now, to be fair.
Yeah.
Yeah, look, we still fully believe like we're going to give it a great shot. And look, if Donegal had the win last weekend, they would have been saying Donegal can beat Dublin. So I firmly believe we're going to give it everything we got.
Yeah, it's a fair point. I mean, people were saying a long way off Donegal are maybe the best chance of rattling the Dubs this year. So if you have the measure of Donegal, there's no reason you can't go up against the Dubs. Padraig, I was reading a couple of I don't know, I mean, it's strange times that we're living in. If you were going to the game, usually you'd be on a bus and probably just listening to music or chatting to each other. As it was, you were all in your cars. Were you one of those who was keeping an ear on the Munster final and kind of, I don't know, does it plant the seeds in some respect that it might be one of those weird days?
Yeah, I was, and I got to watch the first 15 minutes of the game too. So it Tip always looked in control, and listening to the radio on the way up, and it does give you the drive that they're after doing it now. Let's us go out and make an upset too. Yeah. And we were written off, so we had nothing to lose playing that game. Against Donegal, so it was theirs to lose, and we just wanted it more. It just felt on the day.
Yeah, you certainly did. Well, look, it was amazing. I mean, I'll let you go. I know you've got to kind of get the head down now and focus over the next few weeks into training this evening. But congratulations, and I guess hopefully there's a vaccine next year. You can celebrate it at some stage properly down the road. But enjoy the experience of the next 2 weeks. I'm sure the county will be going mad, and you've got an All-Ireland semi-final to play in, and all bets are off. Strange things can happen for sure. So Raymond Galligan, Padraig Faulkner, thanks so much, fellas. Well done.
Thanks very much. Thank you.
The neutral can forget, actually, because we're just so used to the provincial structure that we're talking about neighbouring counties here. They share a border. So there's a degree of rivalry locally anyway, whatever about what we've seen, on our television screens down the years.
Yeah, and like say up here in North Kilkenny, it's all Tipperary. So when you hear about the fierce rivalry and the fierce You know, between Kilkenny and Tipperary, it's North Kilkenny, and over the likes of Gortonhu and Thurles and Ballingarry and all these places. But for the South Kilkenny people, you're talking about the Shefflins, the Ballyhales, the Mullinavats, Glenmore, anywhere Tullogher, Rossberg and Big Walter Welch's club. It's all Waterford for them. Like you go into, say, Sleeve-Roo, you go into Ferrybank. Like we had a few years ago, there was a big fight, was Waterford going to take Ferrybank on us? We wouldn't let them take them. So, you know, you have all that rivalry going up, and if you when you're coming out of Waterford over the bridge, Joe and Jamesy, you're coming into Kilkenny, but there's a big kind of a rock up, say it's behind the train station, but there's a war kind of going down there. Not so much maybe lately, but definitely when, say, during the late 2000s, say maybe 8, 9, 10, around that era. There was people putting up Kilkenny or up the Daisha, and it was changing every week. So that's the rivalry that's going on, and sure, it's brilliant. Where would we be without it?
So come here. I'm not too familiar with this Ferrybank business. Ferrybank, I'm just looking here on Wikipedia as you speak. Much of it says here is under the political jurisdiction of Waterford City and County Council. However, there is part of it that extends into Kilkenny. So is this as to what championship they play in?
Yeah, no, it's. I'm not going to start a new war now. It went on a few years ago. It's over and done with now. But
I'm sorry, who won, Waterford or Kilkenny?
See, what happens is, you know, a lot of it is in Kilkenny, but there'll be a lot of Waterford people living in it. You know, it's right over, say, by the train station, right over the bridge, right over the river.
Right.
It's up around that area. Now, listen, I don't know exactly who lives where, but I know they've great rivalry down there. There's a school down there in Ferrybank where there'll be a lot of Kilkenny people who would go to school there, a good few Kilkenny teachers in there, and it's a very healthy rivalry, but, rivalry all the same.
What you're saying to me is Waterford are wrong about that and Kilkenny are right. Is that what I'm to take? Is that the headline I'm going with?
What do you think, Jamesy?
It's a bit like the Limerick lads trying to take Partine off us, Joe, you know?
Right, OK. Sure, look, Andy Moran's playing for Ballahedreen and Mayo. These quirks are all over the place. So, Jamesy, Kilkenny, Waterford, in broad terms, we'll get into some specifics. How are you seeing this game?
Yeah, again, like Waterford really impressed me at the weekend, Joe. You know, they did their warm-up down the corner that I happened to be down with the touchscreen with Sky, and you know, you just got a sense of real energy down there. That they were very together. They're in unbelievable shape physically. You know, they all know the game plan. Even the guys that come off the bench, you know, are all fitting in pretty seamlessly. And they have to be in a very good place because, like, Limerick still seems to be the form line. You know what I mean? And that's the kind of bar I think we're judging everybody else off. And like, obviously Waterford have come as close as anybody. I mean, they were level with Limerick heading into that last quarter, and even at the very end, you know, they had one or two kind of little half goal chances. So that form, I think, stood up at the weekend. And I mean, they hit 327. You know, and like we saw Desi Hutchinson finally with pace on the pitch and fastball coming in. You know what he could do. I thought Jimmy Barron was excellent. You know, and they have to be feeling good about themselves, Joe. Now, listen, obviously, you know, there is the question that this is going to be a third game, obviously, in you know, consecutive weekends, and you know, I suppose you go 3, 4, 5 points behind. That then suddenly starts to kind of creep into your mind. So I think it's very, very important that they start well and that they're in the game and possibly ahead. But like, the longer the game goes on and the longer they're there, like I don't think there's any team fitter than them in the championship.
Right.
And as I said, like, they have you know, they've good players, and I think they're in a good place. Now, Shane Fives is a loss, and obviously there's a concern maybe at some of the goal chances that they coughed up against Clare, and you know, that's probably going to be exercising, you know, the Waterford management's team meetings, I suppose, this week, because, you know, do they sit tight to Burke as a sweeper? Can you afford not to? Shane Fives probably won't be back. You know, they lost him in the Limerick match, but certainly, you know, whatever happens at the weekend, this has been a real year of progress and consolidation. And as I said, they look very, very together as a group. And I don't think there'll be that much in there at the weekend.
Yeah. Manchester United fans, Bruno Fernandes has just scored a really good goal, edge of the area, roof of the net, 7 minutes gone. So 1-0 up against Istanbul at Old Trafford. We're talking here with Tommy Welsh and Jamesy O'Connor. As for Kilkenny, Tommy, few decisions for Brian Cody to make, not least with his starting 15. For instance, does Richie Hogan have 70 minutes in him at this stage, or do we know?
I believe so. I believe he always has 70 minutes in him, Richie Hogan. like going back to the club campaign, he was outstanding for Danesfort. And what happened was in the latter stages, he got injured. And if it was the old system, they would have chanced him. I'd imagine Danesfort would have chanced him. I think it could have been possibly a hamstring injury, but they would have chanced him. And if it worked out, it did. And if it didn't, listen, there was no real loser at the end of it because there was no championship to take place after it. But this year they had the inter-county scene in mind as well. So they played a relegation semi-final and a relegation final with no Richie Hogan. You know, he came on for the last 5 minutes, I'd say, in the relegation final. But so it's not that he can't last the 70 minutes. It's just if he gets injured or not, you know. But Richie Hogan, like, for me, I'd start my best players all day long. And the question, I suppose, that will be going through the Kilkenny management's heads this week is, like, say, Waterford, their subs came on the last, they scored 5 points from play. You go back to Limerick when they won the All-Ireland, their subs were brilliant coming on. You go back to Galway when they won the All-Ireland, subs brilliant coming on. It's all about the panel. Tipperary, the same last year. So, you know, I think Jim Gavin started with Dublin and the footballers. Like, you're not just a sub coming on anymore, are you? Are you a finisher? So I think that's the question. Does he want Richie Hogan coming on with maybe 25 minutes, 30 minutes to go to give? He can't give the crowd an injection anymore, but he can definitely give the team, you know, that little bit of a lift. There might be 2 or 3 pints in it. Yeah. But no, I'd start my best players, Joe, and Richie Hogan, to me, I would definitely be starting him. He's still outstanding. Like, forget about his age. He's brilliant. And he looks fit, he looks fast. And he proved that the last day.
Okay. And what are the other issues Brian Cody's looking at, do you think, with his starting 15?
Yeah, and sure, Paddy Egan then as well. So Paddy missed the last day. He's been just, you know, he's your new leader as such for the last couple of years. He wins all the runs. He wins all the tackling. He's your top man in training. Kind of remind me a lot of Jackie Tyrrell, you know, leads by example the whole way. The kind of panel look up to this guy. Even though he's a young guy, they do look up to him. Because Paddy Deegan, like, if you run, we'll say 100 metres in 20 seconds, he'll run it in 19 seconds. If you do, you know, a 5K, he'll do a 6K. He's one of these characters. So he's a leader as much as anything else. Brilliant way his club O'Loughlin's for the last number of years, his school. But will they start him now? You know, after such a great win the last day, do you bring him back in and break something that's not broken? And the last thing then is Billy Ryan. Billy Ryan had a fantastic first probably 45 minutes against Dublin. Was taken off probably... I couldn't understand why he was taken off at the time, but he was taken off, and he was injured the last. So will he get back in? And Billy has been brilliant for his club since he came back from injury. So they're the 3 question marks for Brian Cody going into it.
Where are Kilkenny vulnerable then, based on the Galway game, Jamesy?
Where they're vulnerable, I mean, it's. Listen, I suppose there may be a sense that you know, the full back line is still not 100%. You know, in terms of. Sorry, Joe. Someone had a space invader there behind me. Well, I mean, look at like you know, I don't necessarily know if Kilkenny are vulnerable. I mean, obviously against Dublin, I mean, you know, certainly there were holes, I suppose, picked in it, and Cody couldn't be happy with the second half performance. But look, I think Hugh Lawler's a good player. I think he's solidified things in there. I think he's options off the bench. I think Conor Delaney obviously wasn't available last year. He was lost again. He's a good player, but. You know, have Waterford got the firepower, for example, that Galway have, or that maybe Tip would have? Arguably not, but it'll be a different kind of game. You know, the Waterford half forwards will come deep. You know, they you know, they're obviously finding guys support. There's always a guy coming off the shoulder. I mean, these guys get up and down the field, but for Waterford to you know, to amass a match-winning tally, like Stephen Benefit is going to have to perform. Gleeson, I think, has to perform, and I think they just need to get enough ball into Desi Hutchinson and allow him maybe the space that they managed to create against Clare. You know, so I one thing I thought, Joe, against Clare, there was an also, like, the first goal, Stephen Bennett could have tapped that ball over the bar, and in previous matches he might have, but there was a sense that maybe Clare were vulnerable at the back, and you know, he wasn't prepared to do that. He wanted to ask the questions and take the man on. And obviously that led to Desi's first goal. And the second goal, again, you know, maybe it was a fortuitous enough break. But the third goal, again, like, I mean, you know, Desi could have shot himself. Again, there was a player coming through the middle. It was a mark of genius to find him. And that's what impressed me with Waterford the last day. They felt there were goals there and they were going for them.
OTB AM.
With Gillette, proud supporters of Movember. Gentlemen, let's move.